Your Excellency, Mr. Harry Dick, the Ambassador of Kingdom of Netherlands, distinguished members of the National Assembly, government and private seed industry executives, our distinguished donors and international partners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to welcome you all to 2020 edition of the Seedconnect Conference and Expo webinar events. Over time, this has grown to be one of the largest gatherings of seed industry stakeholders in Africa. I am particularly happy that these discussions are coming up at a time we have witnessed a lot of disruptions in the seed sector and by extension, farming activities as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and increasing issues of climate change across the globe. The seed sector holds the key for an accelerated growth and diversification of the nation's economy. It is also a vehicle which we can arrive early at the much needed transformation of the agricultural sector and a more prosperous economy. However, we all know that the performance of the sector in Nigeria has been low. Our crop yields and the use of modern farming inputs, including improved seeds, mechanization, irrigation, fall below global average. But with the events of year 2020, particularly the COVID-19 pandemic, we need to move faster and build a stronger and sustainable seed sector. At this juncture, I would like to call on every one of us participating in this two-day event to come out with suggestions and actions that will help us build a better, a stronger, and resilient seed sector. I have personally set up committees to look into the sector and propose solutions that will help us move the sector forward in a sustainable manner. Today, I am pleased to ask the same from this gathering. Let us join hands together to build a more resilient sector in Nigeria. Let us together mobilize additional private investments to encourage private sector research and development, especially in the area of varietal development and plant breeding. Let us together come up with unique models that will encourage the commercial bank to lend more to the seed sector. Let us together ensure that only quality seeds that meet minimum quality standards are supplied at all levels to farmers. I am sure that working together, we will be able to change the narratives of agriculture in this country. I know we can make this milestone possible, and let us make it happen. I thank you all for finding time to be part of this discussion. I want to specifically appreciate all those who are assisting the seed sector in Nigeria, the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, the Embassy of the Kingdom of Netherlands, the Hungarian Embassy, members of the Partnership for Inclusive Agricultural Transformation in Africa, PIATA, BNGF, etc., for their support. However, we welcome others to join the team to build a resilient seed industry in Nigeria. Finally, it is my honor and privilege to declare the 2020 edition of Seedconnect Africa webinar series open. Thank you, and God bless you all. Yeah, thank you very much. I have delivered the message sent by the Honorable Minister. I have done it the way he wanted me to do it, and I thank you all for coming. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Very much, Dr. Ojo. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ojo, for delivering the Honorable Minister's speech. Thank you once again. Please, if you are not speaking, please can you mute yourself? Thank you. So let's get into today's session. Our first session today is tackling counterfeit seeds and the deployment of substandard quality seeds in our seed system.
Cynthia, let me stay there where you are. Let me see.
Yourself if you're not speaking. Thank you. So our first session today is on tackling counterfeit seeds and the deployment of substandard quality seeds in our seed system. I'll be a moderator for this session. And the objective of this session is to explore possible strategies to tackle counterfeit seeds, fake seeds, and the deployment of substandard quality seed in the sector. Strategize means to protect smallholder farmers from fake seeds, inform the public sector on proper policy formulation and implementation to tackle counterfeit seed in the industry. So today we have 5 experts on this session that will discuss the challenges and solutions to mitigate these seed issues and challenges that we have. My first speaker today is Dr. Edwidge Tonissen. She's a molecular biologist at Luxembourg, Netherlands Inspection Service for Horticulture. In this function, she has established a laboratory facility for the molecular identification of plants and also plant pathogens using DNA fingerprints techniques. She also represents Luxembourg in international organizations such as Virology Committee of ISTA and the Working Group of Biochemical and Molecular Techniques and DNA Profiling, in particular BMT of UPOF. Dr. Tonissen, are you with us today? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thanks. So my first question to you is, on adoption of improved seed varieties increases productivity and ensure high yields for farmers. Why are the prices for improved seeds so high? What are the direct and indirect benefits for the farmers, specifically the smaller farmers?
Yes. Well, thank you for this question, Yolanda, and also thank you for the invitation to be with you in Nigeria. This is my first time in Nigeria, so I'm excited to be with you. And thank you for the question. Yes, it's true that very improved seeds are usually very expensive, and I can imagine that it's for the local farmers maybe too expensive, but there are some advantages of buying these expensive seeds. So in the first place, usually the expensive seeds represent hybrid varieties, and well, the breeding of these hybrid varieties is quite complicated and then long-lasting procedure, because breeders, they have to invest in developing parental lines where certain traits are fixed in these parental lines. And then after that, well, it takes years and years and generations to develop these parental lines. And then you use the parental lines to cross them and to produce these hybrid varieties, which have then an heterosis effect in the field. Well, what is the benefit? Well, first of all, I'd like to stress that this development of these improved seeds is really a long-lasting and very expensive development for the breeders, and most often also a very high-tech development. So the breeders of agricultural crops and also horticultural crops, so like, let's say, vegetables, they use really high-tech technology like breeding with DNA markers, so marker-assisted breeding, sequencing, and so on. And that means that they have to invest in these technologies quite heavily to know exactly what they want to, which traits are fixed on the DNA, where it's fixed, and which part of the DNA to integrate into the parental lines. Well, the nice thing is that they produce these hybrid varieties, and then they can protect the parental lines and also the varieties by means of plant breeders' rights. And this is very important. The system is very important for the breeders to return on investments. So that means they invest first, then develop the new varieties which they protect, and by means of this protection and the royalties they gain from this protected variety, they get back some more money to be invested in the future for future development of new varieties. So I think for local farmers, they can benefit from this increased improved seeds, because they're far more homogeneous, so uniform, than other seeds. And it has a lot of advantages, I think, for the production and the moment of harvesting. Also, the germination rate is very high usually. So I think in the end, you have much higher yield, and it's also better for harvesting. So it's better. I think that you can use machines, for example, to harvest it instead of doing manually things. And in the end, when we are then in a circle, breeders have also more money to spend in future improvements. And that can also be improvements that are specifically for example, for the climate challenges in Nigeria, for example. So I think in the end, everybody will benefit from this circle of improvement.
Thank you. And I still want us to, well, I'll come back to you, but I still want to explore what potential partnerships can work for rural farmers, farmers with 1 hectare or less, and how can they get access to those yields? So if it's like a government partnership or some subsidy level, but I'll get back to you on that. And then we hope to have you in Nigeria in person. So
that would be great.
Thank you for that. My second speaker today is Mr. Temitope Adegoroye. He's an associate partner at Sahel Consulting, Agriculture and Nutrition, where he is responsible for client engagement and project management and implementation. He has led several studies on agricultural policies, market entry strategies, and implemented consulting projects in key areas like agriculture, including innovation of seed systems, mechanization, on-farm productivity enhancement, and improved market access for agribusiness stakeholders. Mr. Adegoroye, are you with us this morning?
Yes, Yewande. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. So I'm trying to pull up my video. Yes.
So we'd like to see your face so we know who we're speaking to.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Good morning. Please, can you everyone, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. Would appreciate it. Thank you. So the issue of counterfeit fake seed has been addressed holistically and with partnership. It has to be addressed rather. How can we, what roles can government or smallholder farmers and agro dealer, just the value chain, play in ensuring that the issue is addressed in this system? How do we address the issue of fake seeds, counterfeit seed, and how do we protect our farmers?
Okay, thank you very much, Yewande. Thanks for the question as well. You're right. Counterfeiting is a very big issue in our seed system. And in my opinion, I think we need to leverage, a lot of, possible solutions available to us to be able to tackle it. But most importantly, I would say we need to leverage technology in order to properly address the issue of counterfeiting. NASC has successfully launched the Seed Codex, which is a smart labeling technology that generates a unique code, that will be included on the labels of all seed companies' seed packages, so some sort of enhancing seed quality verification. And I think that's a very great breakthrough in the Nigerian seed sector. But there is an urgent need for collaboration among all seed industry stakeholders. We need to build a brand around the Seed Codex itself. But how do we do that? I think we need to, develop, lots of marketing, campaigns, leveraging several channels, radio programs, jingles, mass messages, communicated newsletters, social media, sponsored campaigns, to really educate farmers and the general public about, the Seed Codex solution and what exactly it stands for and what it's supposed to be doing. I think there is currently a depth of knowledge about the technology solution. The other thing that I want to quickly talk about is, the need for, broad-based awareness on what really makes a seed fake. I there's definitely a need for us to, really sensitize, stakeholders and most especially the key actors, farmers, producers and sellers of fake seeds, as well as, smallholder farmers generally, to really understand what makes fake seed, and, highlight the negative impact of fake seed, on our seed system, and particularly on the economics of farm production, as well as how fake seeds, negatively impact their livelihoods. I think we're trying, but we're not doing enough. If we engage in broad-based awareness around what makes a seed fake, and really highlights some of the issues around it, and the impacts, on the economies, on the livelihoods of smallholder farmers, I think we'll begin to see some rapid change. I want to also, talk about, the case of, really addressing offenders, identifying offenders that the NASC has been doing brilliantly in terms of, seed industry inspection, and really identifying, counterfeit seed producers. But I think we need to do a lot. We need to begin to name and shame offenders, and we can leverage all sort of channels to actually do that. Print media, radio announcements, publishing people on, even on the NASC website, all social media platforms. I think there's a need for us to start to really name and shame, people who are actually, making business out of counterfeit seed. So in the end, I would say that there is a need for us to collaborate. NASC is actually in the center of this all, and there are lots of organizations, associations, NGOs, CSOs in Nigeria who NASC can actually engage to really carve out some very unique strategies on how to go by addressing this challenge, and coming up with some very effective programs to tackle seed counterfeiting.
Well, thank you for that. The key message is create awareness on what makes seeds fake, so that the farmers are more informed, and then hold the sellers of this fake seed accountable. Thank you for that. Please keep your questions, Q&A, put it in the Q&A box. We want to receive your questions, so don't forget to put your questions in it, not the chat box. We'll get into the Q&A session right after this panel. Our next speaker is Dr. Lava Kumar. He's the head of Germplasm Health and Virology, the head of Health and Virology and Molecular Diagnostic at the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, IITA, headquarters in Ibadan, Nigeria. With over 23 years of experience, international experience to be specific, in agricultural fields in South Asia and Africa. He also heads the Seed Tracker and Crop Disease Surveillance CDS project of IITA, digital innovation for mainstreaming seed systems, and value chain integration for improved access to market. The Seed Tracker won the Google Impact Challenge Award in 2018 as a tool with the ability to impact smallholder farmers. Dr. Lava, good morning. Are you with us this morning?
Good morning. Thank you. And good morning, everybody on the panel and all the participants. Thank you for inviting me to share a few opinions of mine. Is it okay if I share my screen to drive my point? Since I'll be talking about specifically about the Seed Tracker as one of the solutions to counterfeit seed.
Definitely. But we also have, you can definitely share your screen. We also have a couple of questions for you. So one of our key questions is, since you lead the Seed Tracker project, how does the Seed Tracker help mitigate the issues of fake seeds? So we'd like to know that. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. Before I talk about the solution, I would like to just to remind ourselves what is the type of problem we are facing. Counterfeit seed in general is very simple and straightforward, but not so straightforward in my experience in Africa. So just to explain this point, I cannot share my screen unless you authorize me to. Sorry.
1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see.
No, I still can't do it.
To do it right, wait, during your discussion, so you could go ahead and answer the question. Sorry, I'm trying to figure it out.
Maybe, is it okay if I come back later on? It might. I thought it might be useful to show a few features.
Okay.
Yewande, I think we should just take Mr. Agbola, the next speaker, while we technically sort out Dr. Lava.
Yeah, apologies for this.
We'll get back. I apologize about that. Yes, I apologize. We'll get back to you, but I think you should have access now, so we'll try that later on. Sorry, we'll just go to Dr. Yaro, Dr. Adiza Yaro. My next speaker is Dr. Adiza Yaro. She's the Business Development Manager for East West Seed International in Nigeria. She's an agronomist and marketer involved in market development, rural development, agribusiness, and project management. She's active in the promotion of women and youth involvement in agribusiness clusters and value chain development. She supports farmers' organizations to help set up demonstration farm plots. Dr. Yaro, good morning.
Good morning, Wendy. Thank you for having me on Seedconnect Africa 2020. I'm happy to be here, and thumbs up to all the stakeholders that has made this thing a success. Thank you.
Thank you. Smallholder farmers are caught in the trap of low prices of fake seeds compared to improved quality seed varieties. How can a reorientation, a behavioral change be achieved to impact smallholder farmers' preferences for improved seed varieties despite the difference in price?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. I think my first remark on this topic will give us a better clarity if I refer to seed as life. So if we look at seeds as an entity to be equated with life, it means whenever we're discussing the subject matter seeds, we have to tread with some kind of caution because we're dealing with live materials. When we speak about counterfeit seeds, we refer to both seeds that are adulterated or are of substandards. This is to put into account imitated seeds brand, imitated labels, reused packs or pouches, as well as expired seeds in general. Like I was earlier on introduced, I work for East West Seed and I feel happy about that. Our founder, Simon Groot, the laureate Nobel Food Prize win 2019, says, and I quote, "A good seed can change the lives of millions," meaning if lives are at stake here, we need to treat seeds with extra caution. So often smallholder farmers prefer to invest in cheap seeds for economic reasons. To start with, smallholder farmers don't see agriculture as a business, but as a way of life. So it doesn't really matter if they buy cheap seeds in order to do it as a way of life, maybe because it's a family business, but then they don't really see it as a thing of investment to invest $1 to have an output of $5, for example. But not until when seed companies sees the need to provide or educate smallholder farmers with the concept of having to do farming as a business, farmers will always return back to use their farmer safe seeds because it's as good as it doesn't come with a cost. It's just to extract the seeds, keep it for the next season, but then it comes with a lot of issues, problems, transfer of diseases from one generation to another. Yields will continue to deteriorate over a period of time. So for me, I see that seed companies can do a lot of work around demonstration plots. So until seed companies see it as a long-term investment where they have to teach the farmers quality seeds needs to be used in order to increase yields, in order to combat a lot of diseases issues they are struggling with in the field, and also to show them that there is a good return on investment when you use hybrid seeds, meaning the initial investment might look heavy, but at the end of the day, it will pay the farmers when they use hybrid seeds. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll come back to you in terms of who exactly is responsible to create more, to inform the farmers or create more awareness. Is it the private seed sector or the government? So we'll come back to you with that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Wendy.
Agbola Adebayo. He's the Director of Seed Inspectorate Department at the National Seed Council, that's NASC. He attended several quality control courses within and outside Nigeria. He also serves as Seed Verification and Quality Control Officer Manager at NASC, Seed Law Enforcement Officer at NASC, and Quality Control Manager at NASC. Mr. Agbola, good morning. Good morning. Are you with us this morning?
Yes. Good morning, Wande. Hello. Good morning, Wande.
Good morning. Good morning.
And good morning to all the panelists. It's my pleasure being on this program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You are the Inspector General. You're like the seed police. So to ensure that seed companies are adequately supported, there has to be an enabling environment that protects their innovations. How can this be achieved from your experience? Mr. Agbola, we can't hear you. Mr. Agbola? Hello? Mr. Agbola? So, Mr. Agbola, we can't hear you. We heard you earlier. Let's move back to Dr. Mr. Agbola, sorry. We can't hear you. Can anyone hear Mr. Agbola, or is it just me? Sorry.
I can't hear him.
No,
I can't hear him.
So, Mr. Agbola, we'll come back to you because we can't hear you. We could hear you earlier for the introduction. Thank you. Are you ready for us now? I think we're ready for you, rather. Okay. Dr. Tonison, are you with us?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, and I'm glad you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
So, Dr. Tonison, can you give us more examples of fraud in the agricultural sector in Europe? And in particular, tackling counterfeit seeds in the market. So any experience you've had?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to share my experience with you from. First of all, I'd like to shortly comment on Dr. Hadisa Yarrow, because I fully agree with her expression, and I think the breeding industry, it should take to teach the farmers about the use of hybrid seeds, because it's very important. So that's just a remark, because that belongs to my former question, and I was very happy to hear her statements as well, which are very much in line with mine. To come back on your second question to me, so we have at Noctamo, where I work as a molecular biologist, we have quite some experience in fighting in fraud in agriculture, and also in tackling counterfeit seeds in the market. So we developed in our institute sort of a service which is called Variety Tracer. And this is especially developed for supporting the industry in fighting fraud in horticulture. And we can actually discriminate several kinds of fraud we see. The most common fraud in Europe is illegally reproduction of popular protected plant varieties, because everybody wants to sell and to grow these popular and very qualitative high quality varieties, but they don't want to pay the royalties for it, and then they start and steal it and illegally propagate these varieties. And usually this is common in crops that can be vegetatively propagated, mainly in cut flowers, for example, and not so much in vegetables or horticultural crops. Another commonly seen fraud in Europe is, and that's more complicated, and that is where there is a suspicion that a parental line is stolen and is illegally used for the production of a hybrid variety. And this hybrid variety is then highly similar to also protected varieties. And to prove that actually a stolen parental line is used to produce a hybrid variety is quite complicated. So this needs huge research projects, and also molecular or DNA analysis to prove it. It's not so easy. So most of the time, this takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and also costs quite high amounts. And the last way of fraud in horticulture is actually what we are talking about today, and that is counterfeit seeds of inferior quality, and that misuse actually the good name of a variety, and even also the seed bags of a company and the logos and so on. So it's there's really an industry behind this misuse. And how can we prove it? We'll use two things actually. We can use morphology, so field tests, where we grow the counterfeit seeds or the suspected counterfeit seeds next to side by side by the true to type seeds, and see if we observe any differences in how the plants look like, and if they are uniform or not. So that's one point, and that is where my colleagues of the variety research department are involved. Another point what we can use as proof is genetics, and that is where I am responsible for in the lab work. So we can look at the genetics level, DNA level, by producing DNA fingerprints of both counterfeit seeds, so the fake seed samples, and we compare it again with the true to type seeds. So in this type of analysis, it's always very important that you compare with the true to type seeds. So you cannot only look at the counterfeit seeds, but you also need to compare with true to type, and even with other controls in your experiment. And this we do on a project-based basis. So every project is different, but in the end, we develop also DNA databases where we put all the DNA fingerprints of all the true to type varieties in there. And that makes life easy on the longer term, because then we can just pick counterfeit seeds from the market or from where it is observed and compare it to all the DNA fingerprints in our database. So this is really, for future use, a very strong instrument to fight counterfeit seeds, I think. Thank you.
Amazing. And that's actually it's interesting to know for a country that has a PVP law, unlike Nigeria, that we don't have that to protect us. So I'll come back to Mr. Agbola about this. Mr. Agbola, since you are the, I want to say, the inspector of police for fake seeds, and in a country like Nigeria, we don't even have the PVP law. So how do we protect companies in situations like this? How can companies be supported? Mr. Agbola, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Agbola. Hello, Mr. Agbola,
Okay.
we can hear you. But we can't see you though.
Yeah, okay, you can see me.
Yes.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. One day, good morning. And to all the panelists, good morning. Hello?
Hi, good
Hear
morning.
you.
Okay. Seed Council has really done a lot to create favorable environments for seed companies in Nigeria. We started by liberalizing foundation seed production and marketing. That is to say, before now, Council has been in charge of foundation seed production. But in order to give a level playground to all the players in the seed industry, we hands up, at least to make sure that more players come in, and we have enough EGS that will go around all the players. That is the first thing we did. Now we went further to link some of the viable seed companies to source of finance that has actually helped them in building their infrastructures, buying back, and other facilities they need in the production of quality seed. Also, the Council is presently and continuously helping to popularize all the traded seed varieties currently in Nigeria. And this we do in conjunction with the seed company themselves. So this is done when we carry out our field days. During the field days, the seed companies are present. We have the farmers, we have the NGOs, we have NARIs, and other stakeholders, where we will jointly evaluate all these varieties and come up with informed decision on these varieties. This is currently going on, and we are intensifying efforts so that farmers in Nigeria will have benefits for their investment. Also, NASC attached seed certification officers, which we call seed inspectors, to most of the viable seed companies in Nigeria. This is to ensure there's easy access to quality production of seed on the field. These seed certification officers ensure adequate and regular field visits to ensure quality seed production. Presently, we have just introduced seed codes and seed tracker. This is to also help the new seed companies to help them market their seed. And it helps to get rid of fake and emergency seed dealers in the market. Presently, we are bringing up PVB law, which is currently with the National Assembly. I'm sure by the time it is in play, most of this faking and adulteration will be a thing of the past. So in a nutshell, these are the things Seed Council put in place to ensure that faking and adulteration is drastically reduced. But we are not resting on our hope. Effort is still on to ensure that we have zero faking and adulteration in Nigeria's seed market. Thank you very much.
Dagbola, thank you for that message. Dr. Lava. Dr. Lava, are you with me?
Yes, I am.
You should be able to share your screen now. Okay, so you have the floor. You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay. I'm trying. Yes, thank you. I apologize for the small inconvenience caused, but I think it probably worked well in my favor because the point I wanted to make would have been much more easier to explain following the previous speaker's comments. There's a great deal said and very pertinent points, mainly focused on the counterfeiting of the branded seed. But in the African landscape, it is a bit more challenging because we have a system where a lot of seed that is available are not actually branded. For example, the branded ones where there is a company, for example, the East West company, which sells the seed, they have a brand, they have packaging system and probably authentication codes, and also DNA barcodes, as the speaker from Dutch explained, to identify varieties in case if there is any suspicion. But the systems in our region is a bit weak. So it's often complicated to identify the seed that is being sold or original or fake, right? That's very well explained. But even bigger challenge for us is that not all the seed that is being sold comes in nice packages. So this is a well-known problem and it's a big issue. So there is no distinction between grain and seed for a number of crops. And then regarding the brand, it's also a big problem. There is a lot of seed that is being sold by the seed producers are unbranded. Other issues I would not talk in this particular one because it's been already touched by another expert is the wrong variety, the viability issues, the seed being a source of pest spread. For example, when we talk of counterfeit seed, one of the emphasis is on the variety, varietal purity. The other big risk is as a consequence of poor production, they can carry pests and diseases, and some of them could be very dangerous ones, and that could cause immense damage. Needless to say that the farmers who buy such seed often lose because they lose a lot of money investment. So here are the 4 scenarios which I see that is in our landscape. How to intercept counterfeit seed. The first scenario is sale of counterfeit seed of branded companies. Okay, this is if it's a straightforward issue, it is an intentional crime. They need to be um, identified and they have to be taken out of the system. The second scenario is sale of undefined quality seed in unmarked, unbranded packages. So in essence, these are uncertified seed. So definitely they are illegal. Is it a crime? Maybe unintentional crime. And then there is a issue of sale of grain as seed depending on the demand. So these are like promiscuous seed sellers. Suddenly they will, from grain sellers to they can transform into a kind of a seed sellers. Again, there is an uncertified seed coming into the market. It is illegal, could be unintentional or unintentional crime maybe. And then there is informal seed producers. This actually forms a big set, right? So these are the people who are unregistered, contributing to uncertified seed production. Illegal, again, maybe unintentional. So these are the four situations I see in our landscape. In an ideal seed world, uh, seed is always produced by registered seed producers, and they are sold by the registered dealers, and the buyers already know where to go and buy seed. Okay, this is the situation. But in sub-Saharan Africa, that is the case. That is not the case. There is an inadequacy of this registered dealers, availability of these registered dealers in a wide areas, and there is an information deficiency. So many farmers, many people looking for seed, they have no idea where to go and find seed, how to distinguish a counterfeit seed from a original seed. So there is a complete lack of information. So this deficiency in awareness about the producers, access to appropriate information is a challenge that need to be addressed if we have to change the solution. Okay, we can describe the problem, but we need to think of changing this situation. And this is where we thought a few years ago when we were having one initiative on cassava seed systems, the NASC, IITA, and other partners, we think of having a kind of enabling platform that would help us, that would help improve compliance to the procedures. It will also form it will also give an identity to the seed producers as well as seed sellers, and this can be accessible very easily in an affordable system. And this system is fit for purpose. For example, it is tailored to the situation in Nigeria and considers multi-stakeholder landscape because the seed is being produced by international companies to the local companies to the traditional seed producers in a community level. So, and this is where we have come up with an ICT solution because quite often digital solutions are very easy to disseminate and also for adoption. The cost that involves in promoting and adopting ICT-based solutions are much, much cheaper. So we have come up with an app called Seed Tracker. That was the question that you have. The moderator has asked me, how does the Seed Tracker can help this alleviating this counterfeit situation? So basically, this is a digital app that digitizes the whole seed system process. It's a very simple online platform that enables registration of the seed producers. Platform, it readily forms a platform for seed value chain, all seed value chain actors, and also it provides information necessary information about the varieties and the quality parameters, etc. So this has now been piloted since last year by the NASC as a national seed tracker. So it's readily available on the website. So this platform provides a scope for all seed producers to readily register. It's a simple 5-step process through an online system through the NASC website. It has features for large-scale seed producer, medium-scale, small-scale seed producers, seed dealers, and also community seed producers. And then those who registered get a digital certification, and the information is already available in the system that can be readily accessible by any seed inspector sitting in the Nigeria, of a NASC seed inspector in Nigeria. And it is not just that. It integrates a number of other areas within the NASC system. So it becomes very easy for authentication. I won't talk about seed codex because we have another expert with Amit Sas who will be talking about it, I suppose, later. The advantage is this. Now, as a consequence of this system, we have a map of all the seed producers and sellers on the platform. And this visibility is by choice. Unless seed producer want to be visible, then only you will be visible. Otherwise, information remains confidential. So the advantage is that now using this map, one can readily identify every seed producer that is listed in this system is authenticated and accredited. And the variety information, the area produced, everything is registered here. So it becomes very easy for both NASC inspectors as well as buyers to verify whether they are buying it from a accredited seed producer. There is also an app version. It provides the same kind of information in a much more simplistic way. They can readily verify the variety details, and they can contact the producers. The thing is, only registered and approved, NASC approved producers are listed here. So this is a big check for somebody who's looking for a seed. And this can all, they don't have to go and look for the seed in the open market. They can actually do this through this app, and seed can be, the quality seed can be accessed right at the home or in a place where this seed is available. So to conclude, Seed Tracker offers a simple system for identity of the seed producer or a dealer. It enables traceability as well as accountability. It lists accredited seed producers, and this information will be readily available to everybody. And the information is very easy to access and also to communicate and procure quality seed. So this system also provides ways, in case if there is a doubt or something, they can readily contact either the seed producer or seed inspector for more information. So this is something that has been established, now is in use, piloted by the NASC. So that addresses a much bigger issue. Like, we need to change the number of areas if we want to really come to a point where there is a market for high quality seed and the seed producers really benefit from the investment they are making in seed production. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lava. Thank you very much for that presentation. And we still have a lot of conversation that needs to be held on, like what Timmy Tokwe had mentioned, who is holding them accountable? And do you think that we need to put some policies, government needs to put some policies in place to help protect those farmers? Because I don't think a farmer is thinking of, oh, when I get a seed, is it registered or not? They're just trying to plant at that minute. So how do we get them protected? I would like to have more conversation on it, but we're running out of time. And I want to be able to take the Q&A questions. I see some hands available. I'm sorry, I see some hands up. So I would let a couple of people talk. I think we have Mr. Abdulkarim Kaita. So I'll let him speak. Can the host, yeah. Mr. Kaita, are you with us? Hello?
Yes, one I'm with you.
Yeah, so you have your hands up. So we'll take some questions. Thank you.
Okay.
And please direct it to somebody.
I will direct it to Hadiza on the seed issue and the National Seed Council as well. I think the Seed Council is
So Mr. Kaita, we can't hear you.
doing a lot of job, which is good. We know there's a lack of good seeds. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. We can
Hello,
hear you
can you
now.
hear me? Yeah. Okay. I said on the issue of the seed, apart from having good seeds, there's need for good soil management practices. We all know that is lacking in Nigeria on smallholder farms, most especially. So no matter the seed introduced, if soil nutrition is not taken into consideration, that expected yield will not happen. So there's a need to liaise for NSC with fertilizer blending companies so that they can come up with blends for different crops. As it is now in Nigeria, we have only two major fertilizers, the NPK and the urea, and this is what is applied generally to every crop. And aside that, no soil nutrition tests are carried out. So most farmers don't even know the soil nutrition, but give it a dose of urea or NPK, and then just pray for the best. So if we continue along this line, of course, all the research on the new hybrid seeds. So I want to see a situation whereby the National Seed Council liaise with fertilizer blending companies and also the seed suppliers, so that crop, we know that most crops need micronutrients.
We can't hear you, Mr. Kaita. We can't hear you. Well, Adiza Yaro, can you answer that question, please?
Okay, thank you, Wendy.
From the main fertilizer and good soil management practice with the smallholder farmers has to be all these factors together. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Kaita. Dr. Yaro will
answer
that question right now. You're going in and out.
Okay, you've got my point.
Can you go ahead and answer? Yes. We got the message.
Yes, I got the message, but then I was really brainstorming to hear if it's actually a question or a comment. But I think I got the tail end of what he was trying to say. East-West Seed is trying to promote good seeds. And I think his concern is one of the reasons why he had to chip in what he's saying is that we need also to do a lot of work around soil nutrition. He appreciates the work of National Agricultural Seed Council, which is good. And from the side of East-West Seed, I think we try to educate the farmers on soil nutrient management. We teach them basic technologies. We have a website, which is the Grow How website, where farmers can actually log in to see crop by crop and like a blanket kind of application. I know even during the Anchor Borrowers program, while deliberating with the CBN, we told them the EOP, which was designed, was for farmers to use a 20-10-10 MPK. And for vegetable, I think that is not good enough. We need to boost P and K, that is potassium and potassium soil, as well as phosphorus. So I think suggestion is valid, where we should sit round table with input companies to design specific fertilizers to meet the needs of other crops aside maybe the cereals, because Alhaji Kaita is the MD of Dangote Processing Factory, and I understand his concerns, and I think it's a good suggestion here to the table for us to deliberate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adiza. Thank you. So we don't have time. I would love to take more questions, but we're out of time. Thank you very much to all our speakers, to all the panelists for participating, and for people. And please, if you're not speaking, can you mute yourself, please? Please, if you're not speaking, mute yourself. And can the host please mute people that are not speaking? So thank you to all our panelists. Thank you to all our speakers. Thanks for the engaging conversation. I've learned a lot, and there's still more conversations that needs to be had. Thank you very much. For right now, we would share a video on Seed Tracker. Let me see. Sorry, let me make this. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes. Yeah, yes, we are seeing the screen.
Yes, we can see it.
That only good quality seeds are sold in our markets. This means that tags will now be put on seed bags to complement existing certification tags. All you have to do is scratch and reveal hidden authentication codes on the tags and text them to numbers also inscribed on the tags. And within seconds, you will be able to confirm if seeds packaged for sale pass through NAS quality assurance system. For more information, Please call this toll-free number 0802-181-1180 or simply email info@seedcouncil.gov.ng. This message is brought to you by the National Agricultural Seeds Council, NASC, with the support of AGRA, USAID, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, and UK Aid. Under the Partnership for Inclusive Agricultural Transformation in Africa, PIATA, NASC, ushering in quality seeds.
And I say that thank you, NACS, for that video. NACS is doing all they can to help protect smaller farmers from fake and counterfeit seed. Next, we have a presentation from the NACS team. I'll have the NACS team can go ahead. Mr. Charles. Okay, thank you. We can't hear anything. We're just in the presentation.
Yeah, Yewande, you start hearing us just a few minutes now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Yewande. Hello, Yewande.
Hello.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, actually, this presentation is on the CDAC 2019. And we, as is well known, National Agricultural Council is the regulatory body responsible for the oversight on marketing, production, trade, and use of seed in Nigeria. So this is just a small presentation on that for people to know what the Seed Act is all about. And we have to, so that people can actually key in. Yeah, there, the next slide, you will see the Seed Act itself, Seed Act number 21 of 2019. And as a regulatory body, we have a responsibility of doing that. And for us, for our law to actually be in consonance with global best practices, the old law, 72 of 1992, was actually amended and enacted in order to cover all these areas. Like I mentioned that in order for us for our law to be consistent with global best practices, this was done. And the key improvements in the new Seed Act includes modification of penalty for infringement to serve as deterrent to offenders. Hitherto, the first offender, they were paying 500 naira, and a repeated offender, 1,000 naira, and with an imprisonment of 6 months imprisonment. But with the new act, it has been modified in order to serve as a deterrent. First offender this time around now had to pay 1 million naira and go to jail for 1 year or both. Then the repeat offender will pay 2 million naira and go to jail for 2 years. So these are some of those things that have been improved. Also, there are more options for quality control, particularly the issue of third-party certification. Hitherto, the council has that responsibility solely, but we are outsourcing, the Act has given us the responsibility to be able to outsource certification. Now, we have outsourcing certification, and we have piloted it in Benue. We are going to Kogi, going to be done in Abia, and we are going also to Oyo State. Also, there are certification of planting materials that was not in the old Act, is now in this new Act. Then finally is the introduction of plant variety protection because of the need to actually ensure that the best genetics are made available to our farmers, and breeders and farmers in a way are protected. Also, the Act have provisions for several areas, starting from varietal development and PVP, which I've mentioned, registration and release and certification of seeds, seed planning, monitoring and management, seed production and marketing, quality control, seed law enforcement, and seed import and export. All these are actually very, very necessary. Then the condition for seed production and marketing in Nigeria is actually very important, because the seed industry is just not, it's not a non-commerce affair. So to produce and market seed in Nigeria, you must be a registered entity. And the council has that responsibility to ensure that anybody who wants to go into production marketing in Nigeria is actually registered. Also, all seed fields intended for commercialization must undergo compulsory certification, and to ensure that all seeds that's going to be marketed meet all the standards. Can we go to the next slide? Also, to produce and market, I've mentioned that that entity must be registered, and all seed fields also must be certified. Also, for anybody who wants to engage in processing and marketing too, importation and commercialization, they must be registered, because section 49(1) of the Act states that any person who sells key for sale, batters, or otherwise supplies any seed of any variety or hybrid shall apply to the council. And you can see what is actually happening. Anybody that does not actually key into this process, the proceeds will be seized by seed inspectors. You can see the seed inspectors there. And then the adulterated seed, to serve as a deterrent, the seeds will be confiscated and burned publicly. And we always do this during seed fairs, field days, and the rest of it. Also, this is actually very important, and I want all participants to note, and all stakeholders. The law made it compulsory for anybody who wants to import and export seeds must forward applications to the National Seed Council for approval, and a copy shall be forwarded to NAQS Assistant Agency for import permit. Also, it's very, very important to know that importation for commercial purpose is not permitted. However, importation for research and development is encouraged, because we have to bring in a lot of germplasm for us to develop our local seed in order to actually meet the standards. So these are issues that I want to bring on board, particularly in the seed act. This is very important. Thank you, Yewande, and thank you, all participants.
Thank you, Dr. Ojo. Thank you for that brilliant presentation. And I like that you mentioned that importation for research is definitely recommended. And then it also helps us,
yes,
encourage our local researchers to do more. So I'm hoping that, in the future we can see seeds produced from Nigerian indigenous companies and our Nigerian researchers. So thank you for that. So we're going to move ahead to the next panel, and I'm excited about this panel. This panel is more on youths, and we'd like to encourage more youths to get involved in the seed system and just the seed value chain. So please don't forget to use your Q&A box. Put your your questions in the Q&A box, and use the hashtag Seedconnect 2020 for all your tweets and social media platforms. So this is going to be an engaging discussion. Our next one is on youth involvement in the seed sector, creating employment and investment in our food systems. Our moderator today for this session is Ms. Gbemi Alonge. She's an economist and financial journalist at Stairs Business, with experience in business analysis and market research, with a focus on agriculture, education, and health sector. Ms. Alonge, are you with us this morning?
Yes, I am. Hi, Wendy. Good morning.
Good morning. So I'll pass the mic to you. You can have the floor.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. One has already introduced me, so I don't need to go through that anymore. This is a panel discussion in the Seedconnect online series. And like she said, we will be focusing on how the youth can get involved in the seed sector, what are opportunities for employment, for entrepreneurship, and more in the food sector and particularly the seeds industry. So the purpose of this panel discussion is just to get the insights of different stakeholders that are already in the sector to let us know what the opportunity, where the opportunities lie, how we can address limitations to involvement in the seed industry, and how to enhance collaboration and partnerships between different players in this industry. So we will dive right in. I'm going to introduce the first speaker. His name is Farmer Samson Ogbole. He's the lead trainer for Farm Lab, and he's passionate about technology, about transforming agriculture. So for him, agriculture goes beyond simply putting your seeds in the ground and waiting for it to grow. So it involves incorporating business, incorporating technology.
Amy, sorry, I'll hate to interrupt. Farmer Samson is not online right now, so you can go ahead.
Okay. So while we wait for Farmer Samson, I'm going to introduce, is Mr. Obishason here?
Everyone is online except from him.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce the next speaker. His name is Mr. David Obishason. He's a development specialist with core competence in research, project management, and monitoring and evaluation. He has over 8 years of experience working in the East and West African countries, and he has worked on several development projects by the UK Aid, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and others. So Mr. Obishason will just be taking us through, he has worked with various stakeholders in the sector, and he'll just be enlightening us on areas where people can sort of collaborate, especially with the smallholder farmers. So smallholder farmers represent a large number of farmers in the agricultural sector in Nigeria. So what are the various areas of collaboration that private and public investments can sort of enhance or improve smallholder farming in Nigeria? So Mr. Obishason, did you get my question?
Yes, please. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Gumsola. It's great to be part of the discussion today. Well, I have a couple of points that I want to make with regards to what are the issues, and how can stakeholders collaborate. So quickly, let me just start highlighting some of them. I know a key one is the need for continuous training and, of course, retraining in a gap that has to do with seed production. Good agronomic practices is absolutely important in seed production for those who are involved in this seed production, from the EGS all down to the commercial seeds. The fact that you've been trained before does not stop you from going back for another kind of refresher training to get involved, to get up to speed with what are the latest production techniques, what are the dynamics in seed production. There's another area that I feel that there's a need for us to talk about. I know that Temi Tope from Sahel talked about the need for creating awareness. That is absolutely important. Now there's a prevalence in farmer safe seed. You have farmers using up seeds they have for 2, 3, 4, 5 recycling seeds and all of that. It's absolutely important for farmers to be aware that if you get pure clean seed, certified seeds from seed producers this season, and you decide to plant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they also should be aware that the more you decide to to recycle these seeds, chances are the disease load in any of these seeds becomes bigger. And so when that happens, you spread diseases to the to the surrounding farms. That is one. Also, it affects productivity. So there's a need for us to create that awareness. And of course, there's a need for, I know NASC is doing a fantastic job in trying to formalize all the informal systems or sectors we have in Nigeria. But that needs to be stepped up to ensure that there's a formal seed sector across all the crop value chain, that we have in Nigeria. Then another one I'm talking about is the need for I know for NACS certification officers on the ground to promptly respond to certification requests. I know that Dr. Ojo and his team is doing so much more to ensure, and that's why they brought up what they call the third-party certification and strategy, where they have seed inspectors at the community level. But yeah, it's good to have that structure in place, but also it's very important to make sure that the structure in place is vibrant and is, responding effectively to needs of seed producers. Then, of course, I feel that Dr. Lava talked about digital platform, the seed tracker. Seed tracker is a tremendous tool that is used to give the platform for producers, seed producers, and seed sellers to meet and do businesses. But that is also important. It's also important to make sure that all the seed producers, are keyed into this platform. They adopt this platform and they see it as, an easy way of selling their products, their seeds that have been produced. Now, what are the opportunities that we have in this area? The fact that there's a need for training and retraining of seed producers from time to time, there's an opportunity for private companies to step up and fill up that gap, and they'll probably be trained by NASC, and they will in turn start training farmers across the country in different seed value chain. That there's a potential there. Another one is logistics, transportation of movement of produce, stems or seeds being produced from the farm to the market or to the. So that also is another opportunity for youth to get involved and develop a structure where they are there when this logistics company, you can also be involved in movement of seeds from farm gate to those who are involved, who are in need of this. And also, there's a need for to link the seed tracker application to something that has to do with maybe a root tracker application. Where it's not just the seed tracker that is being taken care of, but there's a need for also those who are involved in root production, because if they're involved in root production, you need to go back and get this seed, right, from seed producers. So when you produce the roots, there's also the need for you to get clients who are going to pick up your roots. So there's a need for awareness creation and market drive for more roots to be demanded, and that also will trickle down, has a trickle-down effect all through to the seed value chain end. And another one basically that we cannot shy away from is the need for value addition. The more, for example, if I'm talking about OFSP, orange flesh sweet potato, where I'm currently implementing some activities and implementing interventions in some couple of states. If people know that you can process your OFSP, your sweet potato, into chin-chin, into bread, into juice, into several products, there are chances that there'll be an increase in demand for the roots. And when there's an increase in demand for roots, it has also have a positive trickle-down effect on those who are involved in the vines production or in the seed production. I'm just doing that as an example. Also, so basically, the last point I want to make is basically the need for you to see how they can become a one-stop shop, for seed, for input and extension services. These opportunities, I don't think it's been highly exploited by youth. There's a need for the youth to see how they can get into that space and fill it up. So when a farmer comes to you to get seed from you, the farmer is not just getting seed from you, so getting herbicides, is getting extension services, getting IDs. So the farmer knows that when I'm coming to you as a seed seller, I'm not just getting only seed, I'm getting other things to also boost their production. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. David Obichason. So don't forget to drop your questions in the Q&A box. We'll respond to them. And if you're not speaking, kindly mute your mics so that I wouldn't interfere with the speakers. So just to lift off what Mr. Richardson said, he had mentioned that opportunities lie in logistics arm of the value chain. So my next speaker, I'll just be asking, I'll introduce him first and then ask a question along that line. His name is Mr. Adeshola Ladoja. He's a practical farmer and with experience or knowledge in greenhouse and open field crop production. He currently heads Simply Green Limited that specializes in cultivating, processing, and packaging vegetables. He has worked with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to advise them about the agricultural equipment hiring enterprises, and also works currently with the Oyo State Agribusiness Development Agency. So through Simply Green Limited, Mr. Adeshola, I know that you have played in quite a bit of the value chain, transportation, production, distribution. So from your own experience, Mr. Richardson has said that is one of the areas of opportunity. What challenges or what issues would you say exist in these in that logistics arm of the value chain, and how can we sort of build resilient food systems with these issues that currently exist?
Thank you very much, Bemisola. Good morning, everyone. So basically, when it comes to logistics and the value chain, it's a very important part of the value chain, which a lot of people don't look at. When Simply Green started, we lost a lot of money transporting our produce, especially from the farms, because I have a farm that's 5 hours away from Lagos. We also do meats processing. I also own a ranch in Oyo State where we process meats. And I found out that we lost a lot of money because we could not transport through cold chain systems. The opportunities are there for logistics in agriculture, because I don't know the percentage exactly, but if you look at it, we lose lots of our produce. We have a lot of post-harvest losses because of lack of proper transportation. And I feel like if people start to focus on that side of the value chain, and I noticed that a lot of people just focus on production or processing, but how do we move these goods from the factories to the production sites and to the end users? So I feel like a lot of people have overlooked the logistics sides of the value chain. And if we really want to make agriculture something that it should be, we should focus on the proper means of moving produce from the farms to the end users. Simply Green now processes a good amount of vegetables a week. We actually bag them using a method called modified atmospheric packaging, where we flush the bags with nitrogen gas to actually make them last longer. But we've seen that the only way we can transport these goods, because our processing site is about 3 hours away from Lagos, that's without traffic. And moving these goods from the processing sites, which is on the farm, to the end users, if it's not stored at 5 degrees, if it's stored above 5 degrees, the shelf life drops by about a day or two. And when we sell these goods to customers or stores, we end up having to take them back before the end of shelf life. So it's a very major part of making agriculture work in Nigeria, being able to get the finished product from site to end users in the right condition. Yeah, so that's what I think about it.
Okay, and just one quick question, 10 seconds. So you've mentioned, you've emphasized how important the value chain, that aspect of the value chain is transporting goods from the market from the farm to the market. What would you say in Nigeria today is the major challenge? You mentioned cold chain gaps. What other issue, like if someone was to come in to set up in this sector today, what would you say is the most pressing issue that they should focus on?
And you mean in agriculture in general?
the transportation bit, what is the major issue? Is it, do we lack enough trucks? Is it cold chain? Is it roads? What is the issue today?
As I said before, is moving the goods in the right condition. So you could have trucks, but if your trucks are coming from the north and the trucks are just barebacks, then your produce is going to be exposed to sun and it's going to be exposed to rain. So when you talk about the major challenge, it's not that we don't have enough trucks. We have enough trucks that are plowing the roads every single day. But do we have the right type of trucks? Do we have the ones with fridges or that can store certain goods? Because if I'm going to move my lettuce, as I said, it doesn't go below 5 degrees. Do we have enough of those kind of vehicles that can move goods at the right temperature and at the so I think that's the major challenge. We don't have the right type of vehicles to move farm produce to maintain the quality and the shelf life of this produce.
All right, thank you very much. So our next speaker is Ms. Falak Tijani. She has over 5 years experience working in management consulting and particularly focusing on developing the agricultural sector of West African countries. She has worked in about 4 West African countries and specializes in value chain development and national policy analysis. So Ms. Falak, sorry, I'd like you to just focus on, based on what Ms. Alisha has just said, moving goods from the farm to the markets is a big issue. And over the COVID, due to COVID-19, there were border closures. Some people were not able to take their crops from the farm to the market. First, I'd like you to just emphasize how bad it was during COVID-19. How bad was the hit? How bad was the impact? And then how do we get youth to be interested in solving the problems that we faced then and problems that have always existed even before COVID?
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Alonge. On the issue of COVID-19, it has had a huge impact on the agricultural sector as a whole, because due to the lockdown, we found that a lot of the farmers were not able to go on farm to produce food, to actually go farming. And we've also noticed that a lot of the activities, so one of the aftermath of the COVID-19 that we're still experiencing to date is that we find there's a rising price of food in the market. If you are as youth, we are almost always online, and you'll find that last week there was a huge issue made about the price of onions tripling and going 4 or 5 times more than it normally is. That is one of the aftermath of the COVID-19 impact, because the farmers were not able to respect their production calendars, and that really trickled down to the pricing. And then also other goes again to going to the point that was made around the transportation, because a lot of the foods that were produced in some parts of the country were not able to be moved to other parts. There were a lot of measures that were put in place, but we still see the widespread impact of COVID on food prices. That's just one of the examples. And I think in terms of having the youth involved in the agricultural sector, a lot of the available data does show that our farmers, the average age of a farmer in Nigeria is between 55 to 60 years old. And this is because of the extremely limited involvement of the youth in the sector. If we really want to build a sustainable food systems and feed the projected 400 million population of Nigeria by 2050, we really have to start thinking about innovative ways to involve the youth in this sector. First of all, to even do that, we have to go to the root cause. What are the major challenges? Why are we having very little youth going into the agricultural sector? The agricultural sector is almost treated as the secondary sector, where it's maybe the second job or it's after is a retirement plan for some of the different stakeholders, but it has to become a viable business because it actually is a big part of the GDP of the country. So one of the 2 things that we really have to look at the plethora of challenges that the agricultural sector has and that limits youth involvement. I will just pick up 2. The first one will be the archaic farming practices that we have. This is still the primary methods of agricultural activities in the country. it limits productivity of our farmers. So we'll have farmers that on the seed level, we have seed reuse, which has been mentioned by the various stakeholders, where farmers still reuse, they don't buy new seeds, new high quality seeds. We have lack of irrigation, you have like limited mechanization in the farm. This all contributes and culminates the low productivity of the farmers and lower income for them as well. The second point that I want to emphasize, again, looking at it from the angle of the youth, is the limited investment on new technologies, ICT, and innovation for agricultural practices. So we're seeing here and there, we're seeing new innovations in technologies like precision farming using drones, we're seeing hydroponics and aeroponics, but there's still a lot limited adoption and widespread usage of these technologies. For us to be able, well, I've mentioned now social media, we have to be able to find a way to marry both technology and agriculture to be able to ensure that the youth are involved in this sector, because there's technology and innovation has a huge pool of youth. And if we're able to find a gap, bridge the gap between both, then we are really going to make the high impact there. So I think another thing is, again, have heavy investments in new, different ways, thinking outside of the box. And I think just to speak to one of the examples that we have put forth as a health consulting was one of the platform, a hub that we put together called the nourishinafrica.com, which is a virtual hub that promotes African agribusinesses on the continent. It provides information on the latest technologies in the sector, funding opportunities, celebrates stakeholders along the value chain, from the farmers to the restaurant, the consumers outlets. And it also presents all the funding opportunities, because one of the key things that we are hearing along the value chain over and over again is that there's no funding in agriculture. But working from a consulting firm and then working with different development organizations, there are different fundings that are in different pockets of the value chain by different stakeholders. So what this hub does is that it brings everything together, and we provides information to the different youths that are really interested in going into the sector. So that is just my bit on the youth involvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Falak. So I like how you actually just focused on, like, you mentioned that the issues that currently exist are lack of training or proper understanding of how to farm and use new technology. So farmers are reusing old seeds. They don't know how to properly irrigate their farms, and they're not even aware of the opportunities that lie with marrying technology with farming to increase productivity. And so that's what Farmer Samson sort of focuses on. He's the leader, that's the next speaker. He's a leader of lead trainer at Farm Lab. So he focuses on incorporating business, technology, precision farming, automation, data into farming. So for him, modernizing farming is key to improving productivity. Farmer Samson, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So I'd like you to just run us through, right now, I mean, due to COVID and some other things, food is needed, is key right now, and you focus on training people on how to improve their productivity. Like Falak said, if we're going to attempt to feed our 400 million people by 2050, we would need to improve productivity by a lot. So can you just run us through the nursery process that you have sort of established in your farm lab, and how this can be used to improve productivity in farming in Nigeria?
Okay. Yeah, so one of the first things that I've tried to do is to adopt what we call ABCD method, that is asset-based community development. So what that means in essence is, having been in farming for a while now, pushing technology, I realized it's harder to get people to adopt new technology, especially Africans. The resistance of it's foreign, is not ours, we are not used to it. So instead, we try to understand the principle of new technologies that are emerging in the Western world, and look for a way to domesticate those technologies. So for example, we do soilless farming, but rather than use things like perlite, vermiculite, and all of that, rather we use things like cocoa, coir, rice, or things that are locally available, because we realize when we start using locally available materials as alternatives, people are much more willing to adopt. And of course, it is cheaper. So what we are doing is trying to establish a system or a platform where people can come on board, understand, see it working, then go back, irrespective of how small scale they want to be, go and get something done. And of course, we also understand the fact that for most people coming into agriculture, they have two big major issues they have to play around with. One, how do I assess the market? How do I ensure I produce and my production does not go to waste? Two, how do I get finance? So what we try to do is, in the area of finance, we share the costs. It's your farm, but we help you set up. In the area of market, everything you are producing, we tell you where we have deficit, produce using our technology so that the quality is maintained. Then we buy off everything from you for the first 6 months to a year, depending on the agreement, such that you have enough time to hope to, what's it called now, establish your own market channels and continue on your own. So yeah, that's one part. Then we also try to distill technology to things that are affordable for farmers. So we understand, for example, a farmer might not be able to buy a pH machine that costs as much as 200, 300,000, but we introduce them to cheaper pH machines that they can buy that cost probably 15,000, 20,000. Then instead of putting that machine in the hand of a farmer who would just use it and that's the end, rather we look for, in quote, extension workers. So for example, around Ogun State, we work with students from Federal University of Agriculture, train them on how to run these little tests. It becomes a source of income for you as a student. Work with these farmers in this environment, help them run their soil tests, help them do pathogen tests, help them look at their plants. So we have leaf, what is it called? We have little leaf tests that we already have. So we give it to them, run around these farms, do tests for them. That way they are able to have a bit of precision-based agriculture without having to spend a fortune.
Okay, thank you. So you've mentioned quite a lot there, sort of customizing technology to fit the Nigerian situation. So whether it's providing it at a cheaper rate for them, whether it's doing something that they're familiar with, but in a more productive way. But concerning training and also mentioning the debate about using students as extension workers, that's one of the opportunities that lie for youth in this sector. So concerning training, Nigeria is a very diverse country. I would like to speak about language barriers and just general barriers to like learning. So our next speaker is Miss Ruth Miss Ruth Saleh. So Miss Ruth, Miss Ruth is a knowledge transfer manager of the East West Seed Transfer International. And she formerly worked at Oxfam, Nigeria, specifically as a facilitator on sesame seeds in Bauchi, and has also volunteered with the Nigerian Women in Agriculture and Rural Development as a Northern Program Coordinator. So she has worked a bit on training and informing people. So Ms. Ruth, can you just run us through how we can manage youth involvement, especially youth in like rural areas who are not properly taught and are difficult, and they have like language barrier or any other form of barrier. So youth and maybe female youth, especially who have been marginalized. How can we sort of reach out to them, and how can the youth sort of get into this sector, especially with the seeds industry, to improve youth involvement? Ms. Ruth? Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to contribute on behalf of East West Seed Knowledge Transfer. Knowledge transfer is a pre-commercial aspect of the company that actually deals with educating farmers, but practical trainings on how to grow vegetables, particularly. Language has actually been a problem, but from our experience over the years working with smallholder farmers, low literacy level is not strange to us. Therefore, permit me to share with you some strategies, from my opinion, that has helped us over the years. When we are faced with issues of language, what we usually do is we look at the media or medium in which we are able to transmit or communicate to the farmers or the audience. First, we look at mass media, which is one medium we've been using and we're still using radio. We specifically talk on or communicate in the native language. So by doing that, we hear response from our respondents. You know, they speak and they are happy to also contribute to the discussion because it's actually spoken in their language. TV programs too, we also do that using using the native language, and these farmers are able to also contribute, and they are very happy about it. So another one is the face-to-face media, in which we use the traditional method, of course. That also involves a trainer going into the community to train the farmer, to train these farmers. So of course, when they get there, of course they know the language, so they are able to communicate with this persons one-on-one. Then also we have government. We go through village extension aides who are already there and in those communities, and these people are able to link us or hook us up with gatekeepers. So from these gatekeepers, we are able to get facilitators who are also able to train or help us in training such persons. Then we also have podcasts. Podcasts, we use recorded messages on phones, and then these messages are also given to or shared with farmers using their phones via Bluetooth, where internet connection is not really necessary. And then these messages are shared with the farmers. Then we also have extension materials written in native languages where these farmers are able to access this information. I think that's what we basically do.
Okay, Ms. Ruth, just 10 seconds. Can you just share with us how difficult it is, or what this language barrier does to acquisition of seeds in the rural areas? How does it prevent farmers from being able to get seeds and other farm inputs, like seeds, tubers, different things that they need to farm?
Yes, of course, language is something that if you don't understand me and I don't understand you, of course, we wouldn't just understand ourselves. So you need somebody like an interface to be able to also communicate, or to be able to tell you what that person is actually in need of, and you also give him your own recommendation. So once we have issues like that, then one would have to go through agro dealers. Of course, some stakeholders within the communities, agro dealers. We also have the gatekeepers, like leaders within the communities, who have access to some facilitators within the communities that can be able to communicate effectively with you, understanding what you want to tell the person who actually is into the transaction, and also exchanging his own views to you, and then he becomes like the intermediary. So we actually need people, what we call village volunteers, who actually are into all this, who understand languages or are into marketing a lot, and because they travel a lot, they get to understand languages from different boundaries or different countries, parts of the states. And these are people that actually do a lot of transaction between such persons. But it would mean that we would require people who are very trustworthy, who are very open and straightforward, that neither of the parties will be cheated when it comes to, because it's actually a barrier. Somebody can be saying 5,000 and the intermediary may be saying something else because he is in between and can just want to be a beneficiary from both sides. So we actually need somebody who is actually straightforward and trustworthy to be an intermediary in this regard. Or on the alternative, if you are a company or you are somebody who is who is a representative, you must probably employ somebody who would stand on behalf of each party when it comes to business.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'd like to call on the last speaker. His name is Mr. Charles Onka, and he's a senior agricultural officer in the office of the DG of the National Agricultural Seeds Council. Prior to this, he has worked in several positions in Nigeria and Tokyo, and he's an expert in impact assessments. So Mr. Onka, can you just run us through what the National Agricultural Seeds Council is doing to improve the access to seeds, to improve farmers' access to seeds after COVID? So different types of seeds. What's the council doing to improve how people access seeds and how farmers?
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so we know one thing that came out clearly during the COVID is the issue of various disruptions in the supply chains and also the market. And we also know that this situation has complicated access to quality seeds and other inputs such as fertilizer and agrochemical. And even though access to quality seed before now has also been an issue before the pandemic, so more or less we say maybe like the pandemic made it worse because farmers couldn't go to their farms, the seed companies couldn't move seed around, and then the certification officers couldn't go to the fields to assess seeds as well. But then the seed council being the principal agency that has the responsibility for seeds in Nigeria, we took various measures to make sure that farmers that there's consistent supply of seeds to farmers and all the users of seed. So part of what we did was to obtain a permit from the Inspector General of Police to allow the seed certification officers to move around and certify seeds, and also the companies to also move seeds around to farmers who need these seeds. And so basically the main thrust of the Seed Council is to make sure that the farmers get quality seeds. And we've taken several measures in the past to make sure we sanitize the industry of fake seeds and make sure that the farmers get the right yield from whatever they are using. And part of what we have done is what has been said in previous section. We introduced the seed codex. Before now, we know we have a tag, which is like a third-party guarantor. Any seeds that have passed through the national seed system, we tag this seed for our farm, the quality of this seed, to say, okay, this seed has passed through the quality assurance procedures of the National Agricultural Seed Council, of the national seed system. So we have introduced a tag that where the farmers can just scratch and then send a message, and they get an immediate feedback saying with this seed it's genuine or not. But then back to the panel topic, which is basically on youth involvement. How do we encourage our youth to be part of seed production? And we know I'll just give some basic backgrounds, which lays out some of the opportunities the youth can see when it comes to seed production. The global seed market is worth over $47 billion, and Africa's seed market share is just less than 5%. So there's there's enormous opportunity for the youth to come involved. And then most farmers in Africa obtain their seeds from informal channels. So from the statistics, we can see the informal channels still contribute about between 70 to 80% of seed supply, depending on crop. So we know basically, we know for sure that most of the seed companies have their seed distribution channels in major cities and towns. Now, this is a challenge, just like the other speakers has already mentioned. However, it's an opportunity for youth that want to pursue entrepreneurship in the seed sector. Now, seed, unlike normal crops, have the potential for a high return, as it is a specialized component of agriculture. So what can we do? What can the youth do? So as somebody who is in the seed council, I will just be, I'll be a little bit practical to say these are some of the opportunities available to the youth, and these are what the youth can do to get involved in seed business. Now, they can also register as seed dealer. Now, a seed dealership is a category of seed company only into marketing of seed. Now, within the NACS, all you need to have is a seed store or a warehouse that meets the criteria that has been set by the seed council, and you could create distribution channel to local and rural communities where these farmers are. Or you could also approach seed companies to be one of their distributors, linking the seed companies to market through the provision of market information. Now, this is an opportunity for the youth as they have access to skills, as they have access and skills in new technology and mobile devices. All you need is just to be registered. You register under the name of the seed company. For instance, let's say Premier Seed, who are part of one of the sponsors of this program. Now, you could act as a seed distributor to feed the need of your community or a community nearby. Because just like I mentioned, most of these seeds, the big companies are in town and communities. So a youth who is in his own community, now you see the need, okay, there's maize growing here. What you can do, you can approach some of the big companies and say, okay, you want to be their distributor. This seed is not getting to my community. How do I get involved? I want to be a distributor for your company. You can just open a store and then you begin to market these seeds in your locality. Now, however, if you also decide to go into seed production provides an opportunity for young people to bring in their technological skills.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Onka. So I want to go back to Mr. Obishason. I know you've done quite a bit of work in the tubers segment. So I'd like you to just run us through what the process is like for acquiring tubers.
To bear and produce high quality, you have to be registered. Yeah? Sorry.
I was asking
okay,
Mr. Obishason. Yes, I can hear you, but I was asking Mr. Obishason to just run us through what the process is like for getting tubers, and is that a struggle, and where are the gaps for youth to come in the youth in the tubers segment of seeds or for planting?
Well, if I get your question properly, you're asking accessibility to the planting materials or accessibility to the roots and tubers, depending on which crop you're talking about right now. If accessibility to planting materials, it's a different ballgame.
Is roots and tubers specifically?
Oh, okay. So basically, well, there's always a case of the root producers claiming that they have roots, they have produce, but they don't have markets. And there's always this, also I've met with several processors who claims that, well, I've shut down some of my processing firm or my production line because I don't have roots to process. Or, and you have some of them saying that, well, some of these farmers are not consistent with regards to supply of these fruits. And so there's this lacuna bridging the gaps between the processors and the farmers who are producing this fruit. So in that case, there's also the need to blend these people together. I guess that's a key reason why Seed Tracker was developed, and also for NASC to provide this supervisory role to ensure that all the players involved on that platform are well taken care of. So that's the reason why I also mentioned earlier that there's a need for a similar digital platform that tracks root production and uptake, root production, buying and selling in that context. And then there's a need for these two platforms to be linked together so that players along the two different platforms, they can also relate and easily connect. Okay, I'm a seed producer and you're a root producer, do you need seed? You know, in that context. And of course, it's a case that needs to, all the players, all the stakeholders need to review and ensure that there's a market for every root that is being produced. Root being produced should be market demanded for, so that you don't have farmers or root producers getting into production. And oh, sorry. Okay, so there's a need for that. So let me just okay. Hopefully this will surface for now. And so there's a need for the players, actors, to see how that gap also can easily be taken care of and bridge effectively built and provided for all both producers and processors or even consumers can easily have that. It's a major challenge with regards to logistics I mentioned earlier. If we have new players come on board to effectively tackle that aspect, people who are interested in roots can easily just like you go online to say Jumia or this other platform. You can just go online and request for roots and say, okay, I need 5 kg of this. This is my location, and the logistics company picks it up from whoever that's got it, bring it to you, and you pay off. It makes it easy for all, and it becomes a win-win-win. Win-win-win in the sense that those who needs it and the logistics company and also the producers, the root producers. So it becomes a win-win-win for all the players involved here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll just run through. We're almost we're very short on time. So I just want to Mr. Shola. So just tell us. I know you focus mostly on vegetables. So how do you access your seeds? What's the process of seed acquisition in your own sector, and what gaps exist for youth or young people to come in? And especially because, young people may not have as much productive capacity, they may not have a lot of money and all of that. So what gaps exist for people to come in there?
I'm part of the people breaking the law apparently, because I actually import a lot of my seeds. But that's just because we actually can't get the right type of seeds in Nigeria. I know I buy my seeds from East West. I buy my lettuce, beetroots, and some other seeds from them. But a lot of my seeds that I use, some of them I actually have to import them because I can't find the right variety in Nigeria. So when it comes to the opportunities for youths to actually get in this space, I feel like a lot of Nigerians or a lot of farmers have this mentality of because something is not grown in Nigeria, it cannot grow in Nigeria. Someone's telling me I can't grow something like broccoli. I'm like, well, why can't I grow broccoli? They were like, oh, because it just doesn't grow in the Southwest. I'm like, because you don't grow it in the Southwest doesn't mean it can't grow. So I feel like a lot of youths can actually do enough research to find out that these things can grow, in most places, and actually tap into supplying seeds for those people who want to grow things that are not commonly grown in that area. I know I started selling seeds in my resale store, but those are based on seeds I produced from some of my fresh herbs, basil seeds, coriander. So that's because when we grow them, they actually go to seed at a certain period of time. After 3 months, we actually turn them into seeds. So instead of throwing the seeds away, we actually then retail those seeds in our store for people who want to grow them on a small scale in their food. Like just say you have a food patch in the back of your garden, you actually want to do something small. So I feel like youth should look outside the commonly available seeds, not what corn, soya, those things are things that you can find everywhere, and big players are doing those things. I feel like if more youths focus on those niche produce, I'm speaking from my experience though, I don't really know.
So what seeds do you plant that are not common? What uncommon seeds do you plant?
Well, we grow up to 7 different varieties of lettuce. We grow beef lettuce, romaine, butterhead lettuce, Lodo Rosso, salad bowl. So those things, the only seeds I know we can find, I've only seen one type of seed, which is from Technisem to East West to, yeah, like that's the same one they all sell. I've not found any other company that sells another variety of lettuce. You know, it's only that green particular lettuce they will sell. I've never seen a red one being sold here. So those things are places where I feel if people look into, they can actually say that, okay, yes, there are more varieties to a certain type of crop. And this is where we can tap into and create or bridge that gap in the supply of seeds.
Okay, so in like 5 seconds, as a youth, how do I then come in and plant or grow this or provide the seeds of these uncommon lettuce or these unorthodox lettuce in the sector?
I feel like you just have to identify that there is an opportunity, and farmers, and you also need to tell farmers about the variety. I feel like if you don't tell people, I'll just say a very small thing that my father says to me, which I say to most people. He says he has 2 sons. He sends them to a place where nobody wears shoes to go and market shoes. The first son comes back and says that nobody wears shoes here, so it's a very bad place to sell shoes. The second son comes back and says there's nobody selling shoes here, so it's a big market. So I feel like because there's nobody growing those type of things here, if you actually bring those seeds in and you actually tell people about these type of seeds, I feel like people will. So I feel you need to also market those seeds. You need to actually tell people, but the main thing first is to do research on what type of seeds to actually get and what people are planting this type of produce already, and introduce them into new varieties of seeds. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll just run to Farmer Thompson again. So just, do you buy your seeds, or do you have like nurseries where you sort of nurture these seeds so that you can plant them? And if you do you sell them to other people? We can't hear you. You're muted, so we can't hear you. Yeah.
Yes, sorry, I forgot I was muted. Sorry, my apologies. Okay, so for seed, it depends on the kind of seed that we are working with that determines how we source our seeds. For things like tuber crop, hydroponics in the production of our seed yam. So we have a hydroponic system. So let me explain that for those who probably don't understand. So the first thing is we go to the open market. We try to understand what the farmers like, what kind of yam do they like, and what is the issue they have with the yam. So you get the yam into the tissue culture lab, hence we have the name Farm Lab. Now in the tissue culture lab, we try to clean the yam of every virus, bacteria, and diseases that are present. From there, the yam goes to acclimatization. So when we say the yam, that is, and the vine cuttings goes to acclimatization. From acclimatization, we take it to a hydroponic system where we are able to multiply the open market with us in a space of a year, can give us as much as 300,000 to 400,000 seeds that we can now sell back to the yam farmer. So we use that to provide seed yams. Then when it comes to things like vegetables and all of that, just like Mr. Lado just said, outside East-West Seed and Technicium, there is no other tissue culture. So at the moment, we still have to import our seeds. The only person that tries to bring in some good varieties that are not so common in the country is BIC Farm in Ogun State and City Veggies Farm. Both of them, they have some good varieties, as well as Gatna Kalawi that I also buy seeds from. But outside that, we import. But by next year, we also want to have our tissue culture lab set up for and our breeders available so that we can also produce vegetable seeds locally, because in a country of about 200 to 250 million people, it's shameful that we do not produce our own vegetable seed yet, that we still have to import. Because despite the fact that we have the presence of East-West Seed and Technicium in Nigeria, the reality is their seeds are not produced locally. So as far as I'm concerned, and Syngenta, as far as I'm concerned, and they are just doing distributorship in Nigeria. They are not producing here vegetable seeds locally.
Okay, so seed
and of
production
course take
is a huge
advantage of
gap.
our universities. I know I say that a lot. There is
Okay, so seed production and training
yes,
people
it
on
is.
how to produce
Yeah, it
seeds is a huge gap in Nigeria. Final question. I'd just like to run to Miss, I've been running since Miss Falak, to just run us through, or just tell us in like 5 seconds, is there a gap with storing seeds in Nigeria? So people who produce and distribute seeds, is there also a gap in storing it? Is there a gap in transporting it to farms? Seeds in particular, what is how do we store and transport them?
Okay, I think there is, in that this question is multi-pronged in that it depends on the type of seeds, right? There are most of the seeds are mentioned from Samsung now. I think from Samsung, yeah, there are different. Most of the seeds, vegetable seeds that we use in Nigeria, are imported into the country. And if they're imported in the country, then the farmer or the importer has to cater for the storage facilities for the seeds to ensure that it is reusable, and then also they're able to multiply it to the different stakeholders. For the other seeds, some of the other seeds that we produce in the country, like say the cereals, like maize and rice, there's still a lot of effort that has to be done in terms of not only storing the seeds, but also the marketing of the seeds. If we're still battling with the issue of farmers reusing the seeds, or farmers having the challenge of using the seed for 2-3 years, and sometimes more than that, depends on the value chain. Some crops like cassava, we have farmers that use it for 10 years, 20 years. So I think there's still a huge gap in terms of storage, but then using the right technologies to be able to store the seeds, because not all seeds can be stored open air. They have to have specific conditions under which we can store these seed varieties to enable accessibility to the farmers, and also transportation and accessibility to the farmers. If I take the example of the rice value chain, there is a widespread variety of rice that is used as Paro 44. And for this variety, you find that there's a lot of reusing of the variety by the farmers at different levels. And now that there's even an issue of, there's a blooming crisis of rice paddy production in Nigeria at the moment, because we can also see that the rice price has increased. There are so many factors to that, but it has to do a lot of as well with access to quality seeds. If the farmers are not able to use quality seeds for their farm, then the yield they get from the production is very low. That means that along the value chain there is a shortage of food for production. So I think, yeah, there's a gap on seed production. We have to come up with solutions, adapted solutions for the different types of seeds produced.
All right, thank you very much, everyone, and thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us. Like we've highlighted today, Africa's portion of the seed sector in the world is just 5%. So there's a huge gap for Nigerians to sort of tap into that. And I mean, the youth in particular, because most smallholder farmers and even farmers in Nigeria, most of them are old. So if we're going to feed Nigeria and feed Nigeria for a long time, we need people to, tap into this sector. We need young people tap into this sector, whether it's producing seeds that don't exist, whether it's storing them, transporting them. There are gaps, there are opportunities everywhere. So I'll just look through to see if there's any question. Before we close out. All right, we run out of time. Thank you everyone again, and we hope you enjoyed it, and we would see you in the next panel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bimisa. Thank you for that amazing session. Thank you to everybody on the session. I feel like it was different parties coming together. Nutrition has never been more important. And what I loved about this panel is we have David Obisheson talking about vitamin A sweet potatoes, which is very important in terms of vitamins. Then we have Shola that talks about vegetables and the different kind of vegetables that are hard to find. But we also have something that is promoting local production in Nigeria. So I hope that's an opportunity for all the seed producers outside the country looking into Nigeria to see that there's opportunities for investment and also able to market different vegetable seeds that we don't have. So we still have a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of seeds, but we are working towards it. So thank you. That was an amazing session. Thank you to everybody that participated. We appreciate your time. So our next session, before we go into our next session, we have an address by NASC. We had a lot of questions yesterday and earlier today about third-party certification. So we're going to give Dr. Khalid the floor to talk more about third-party certification for seeds. Dr. Khalid, are you with me this morning? NASC team. NASC.
Yeah, please a second.
Good afternoon, Andy.
Good afternoon. Dr. Khalid? Okay.
Standing in front of Dr. Khalid. Okay. My name is Bankole Osho. Are you hearing me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Bankole. Yes, you can. Thank you.
Yeah. Good afternoon all once again. In a few minutes, I just want to take us through and give us an expose on one of the recent innovative drive of NASC, which is third-party certification. NASC, third-party certification. Third-party certification is the use of trained licensed private agents to carry out seed certification. If you go through memory lane, when certification started in Nigeria in 1975, there was just one player producing seed. And as of today, we have 314 licensed and over 100 with provisional approval. So we know that the quantum of seed production has increased, the number of fields to be certified has increased, and there's a dwindling national budget, and these fields must all be certified. So NASC, in its wisdom, push for the signing of the law of National Agricultural Seed Act 2019, which empowers us to give private agents to certify fields. The law under Part 4, Section 15 and Subsection 4 state that the council may authorize private certification bodies to undertake quality control and seed certification on behalf of and under the supervision of the council. This is the law backing third-party certification. Now, third-party certification in Nigeria is in line with global best practices. This is to further open up the Nigerian seed system to high-level efficiency and reduce the burden of seed inspection on the lean number of officers we have already. With this new chapter in our seed industry, Nigeria is joining other global seed producing countries in Africa, like South Africa has the SANSOR, which is a form of third-party certification, and we have also in Kenya and Tanzania. So this is just not out of place. So why third-party certification? Third-party certification is to increase seed quality assurance in Nigeria through public-private partnership. We all know this is what obtains in the world now, and to instill global confidence on Nigerian seed certification system. Also, third-party certification will complement the NASC officers in meeting quality certification duties, and it's also a form to create career development opportunities for qualified persons. There will be agents that are trained, that have agricultural bias, that have been in the agricultural subsector and are willing and have the knowledge to engage in this thing after training and induction by the NASC. And this third-party certification is also to hasten certification processes. Many times we have officers receiving calls that a field is ready to be certified. And within the constraint of time, logistics, if we have a third-party certification officer within a locality, it makes it easier. One, it takes away the constraint of logistic challenges. Then it also gives prompt response to call for certification duties. Furthermore, to this, NASC has been able to pilot this third-party certification scheme. We all know covering the whole landscape of Nigeria, which is very large, we need to pilot it coming stage after stage. The pilot started last year. There was a project we handled sponsored by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation called Basics, where 18 agents were selected, trained, and inducted as third-party agents in Benue State. They started on cassava. And if you see the picture being scrolled on, being shared on the screen, the upper left picture shows the 18 officers that were inducted in Benue State. And just beside it is the picture of third-party agents that were selected and being trained in Kogi State. Presently, the pilot stage is in 4 states. It's already operational in Benue State with 18 officers who have started certification last year, sent report, and we're under guidance of our 2 state officers who were mentoring them and gave good reports of their abilities. And presently, we are upscaling it to Kogi State. Kogi State participants, 20 of them has been trained, and we'll be moving to Abia State. Abia State have identified 25 young men and women who will be trained. This, for Abia, it will cover Abia, Akwa Ibom, and Imo states, strictly on cassava for now. And we also have Oyo State. Oyo State is the next phase that we move into. So in all, third-party certification is just an innovative way of ensuring that quality assurance is done, giving opportunities to people that have interest in agriculture, young men and women. We know the new normal now. We need to, everybody has to be included in the seed sector. And this is a way to go. And it has been backed by the Seed Act 21 of 2019 of National Agricultural Seed Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bankole. Thank you for that presentation. I hope that helps with explain more of third-party certification. If anybody has any questions, please contact NASC, and NASC will be able to help with situations. So our next session is actually an exciting one. It's one a lot of people ask questions about. It's more about finance, how to access finance for the seed sector. The panel's topic is accessing finance to support and complement public funding for the seed sector. So this means seed research, breeding, regulatory enforcement, quality control, and other services. And today our moderator for this session is Caleb Ojewale. He's a journalist with Business Day newspaper in Nigeria. He reports on agriculture, health, and technology. He contributes to Agribusiness Insight and Tech Talk, which are published weekly on Business Day. In 2017, Caleb was named the City Journalist Excellence Award winner in Nigeria, and in the same year, 2017, was second runner-up at the Golden Pen Reporter of the Year Award. He is a 2018 OKP Fellow and one of the 4 inaugural recipients of the Global Health Journalism Fellow Award from the University of Oxford. He was the first runner-up at the Sanlam Awards for Excellence and in Financial Journalism in 2019, but awarded in 2020. So Caleb, I would give you the floor, and thank you for being here today. Caleb, are you with us this morning?
Yes, I am, Yolande.
Yes, thank you for the introduction, Yewande. I'm happy to join the session this afternoon. And so without further ado, I would like to also introduce the other members of this panel that will be joining in this discussion. And hopefully we are going to give a lot of very positive responses that would help those who are listening to us to better understand financing in the seed sector. So I'll start with Ank van den Hak, who is currently the Deputy Director of Plantum Netherlands, the Dutch Association for Breeding, Tissue Culture, Production and Trade of Seeds and Young Plants. She is part of the core management team of Plantum, and she is here with us this afternoon. Good afternoon. I can see you're here with us already. And then I'll go to the next panelist, Femi Majekodunmi, who is an agribusiness banking and finance specialist with over 10 years of experience and has coordinated a number of projects in Nigeria. Mr. Majekodunmi, we are happy to have you here. Let me check, I believe he's also here with us. Yes, I can see Mr. Majekodunmi is also here with us. And then I move to the next panelist here, Rotimi Olawale, the founder and CEO of JR Farms Limited, registered in the US, Nigeria, and Rwanda, a leading agribusiness in Africa that's investing in different value chains and has special attention in creating opportunities for the youth. I understand Mr. Olawale might be joining us a bit late, and we'll be glad to have him when he comes up online. And then we also have George Kabuta, a Kenyan who is the group head of finance and administration for Value Seeds Limited and the other subsidiaries in the company. I have already seen Mr. Kabuta here online. We are glad to have you here with us this afternoon. And also on this panel, we have with us Mr. Folarin Sunday Okelola, who is an agricultural seed science and development expert. He has more than 16 years of experience in the seed industry, in coordination and management experience across several countries of the world. And he's going to be joining us to share insights with us from the regulatory perspective and addressing some of the bottleneck concerns that seed companies and investors usually have. And last but not the least, and perhaps an elephant on the panel, we have would be Mr. Aliu Abdulhamid, the CEO of NISAL, the Nigeria Incentive-Based Risk Sharing System for Agricultural Lending. This panel is about finance. I believe a lot of those who are listening to us will be interested in getting insights from Mr. Abdulhamid to understand what options are available in terms of financing this seed sector. So welcome once again to all our panelists. I hope we have a very robust session. We have just 50 minutes. And so we are hoping to have 2 questions for each panel member, maximum of 3 minutes for whatever presentation you're making. This is to ensure we can finish on time and not to take out of whatever time is allotted the session coming after ours. And before I call on the first panel member to give their comments, 3 points that this session would like to achieve. The first thing here, without good seeds, there can be no good farm output. And like the computer term, some of us may be familiar with garbage in, garbage out. Therefore, we want to create an understanding on how to drive investment in making good seeds readily available. The second objective is how smallholder farmers can be encouraged to invest more in acquiring seeds. More often than not, they use the saved seeds or the recycled seeds because they can't invest. Then the third point that we would like to achieve, continuous development is required in order for seeds to remain viable and to adapt to changes over time. But then this needs to be financed in one way or the other. So we would also be discussing how we can finance and achieve the required continuous development in order for seeds to remain viable in Nigeria. So once again, thank you to every panel member who has already logged on and is ready to share their insights with us. And to get this panel started, I would be starting with Mr. Femi Majekodunmi. Mr. Majekodunmi, can you unmute your device, please? Okay, great. Good afternoon, Mr. Majekodunmi. We are glad to have you join us this afternoon. And so the question I would like to start with, which pertains to the smallholder farmers, which is one of the objectives that we want to achieve this afternoon. Usually there is this reluctance to adopt improved seed varieties, and this is often attributed to the slightly high cost of acquiring seeds. So from your own experience, you've had over 10 years of experience in agribusiness, finance, and management. So we want you to share insights with us in not more than 3 minutes. How can financial institutions support smallholder farmers in assessing the finance they require to acquire these farm inputs in order to meet the food demands of Nigeria? Mr. Majekodunmi, over to you in 3 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I would like to start from the perspective of where we are as a nation. As of today, only 4% of total bank lending is targeted at agriculture, and that is abysmally low for me, considering the fact that agriculture generates the most employment of all the sectors, and agriculture also contributes significantly to Nigeria's GDP. Again, of the 4% lending to agri sector, just a fraction of that is made available to smallholder farmers, basically because most commercial banks termed that production and pre-production segment of the value chain very risky. And there are 3 major reasons why banks shy away from lending to these smallholder farmers, as important as they are. Basically because of the cost of loan administration is very high. Most of these smallholder farmers have small farm holdings, and they are also scattered around. And so it makes the cost of onboarding them, getting them to open accounts, getting them, to confirm KYC and other, requirements. It makes the cost very high. And so a lot of banks shy away from this. I would like to note at this point that to make financing available for smallholder farmers for seed and other input procurement, a bank will have to be very highly innovative. You have to practically be a consultant to the farmers. You have to ensure that they have the market for the crop they are producing or for the agricultural enterprise. You also have to ensure that they have the right material, planting material, or other things to work with. And that's the kind of innovation that it will require for a bank, to lend to the smallholder farmers. Also, I also like to note that to address the cost of making finance available, the high cost of making finance available to these people, you also need to set up an agency banking network that will not require you to set up bricks and mortars in form of branches across the 6 geopolitical zones. And this is what we are doing at Sterling Bank very well. We ensure that we have network of agents that are servicing these farmers in their local community. What we have found interesting that has made most of our projects very sustainable is that when we engage these smallholder farmers as our agents, when we train them on the simple technology of making financial services available to their fellow farmers, it makes our project more sustainable. And we have seen that repayments, loan repayments, which is usually the fear of most banks, is on the increase. For example, we lent to some rice farmers in Kebbi, and we also did same for some in Sokoto. But in the project in Sokoto, we engaged some of these farmers as our agents, providing financial services to some of their fellow farmers, and we realized that recovery in Sokoto was 100%, and that is not, a joke. Whereas in Kebbi, we were struggling with repayment. So the agency banking network will help commercial banks to scale so that we can increase the 4% lending to the sector to about 10%. Currently, Sterling Bank is doing well over 9%, and there are plans to increase that in the nearest future. So for a bank to lend effectively to smallholder farmers to acquire seeds, to acquire other inputs, it needs to be a consultant. It needs to be able to link them to market. It needs to be able to link them to the right supplier of inputs in terms of seeds, agrochemicals, and all. So that's very, very important. Then again, because
thank you very much, Mr. Amajakodumi. Okay. So, we are trying to be time conscious, and I believe your points have been well delivered and has captured the essence of that question. But we are still going to be back to you with more insights. So just hold on to the thoughts you have there. We are still going to get them later. Thank you very much, Mr. Amajakodumi. So Mr. Amajakodumi has shared his insights with us. We are going to summarize all these points at the end of our panel. And now we move to Mr. George Kabuta. Mr. Amajakodumi has just spoken from the smallholder farmer perspective on how they can assess finance. And now we are looking at this now from the producer side of it. Productivity does not just stop in assessing finance. What is important is the proper management of the finance to get the desired outcomes. So we want you to share with us also in not more than 3 minutes, from your own experience, how can seed companies strategize in order to properly manage their financial resources while minimizing cost of production? And this question is important because if the cost of production is not managed, the seed that comes out will be expensive, and that means the farmer will still not be able to purchase it. So how do you keep production within a reasonable scope, whereby what you're selling to the farmer will equally be less expensive for them? Mr. Kabuta, over to you, please.
Thank you. I think for these Seedconnect, one thing we have been made to understand is farming must be seen as a business, and that is very key. The moment you see farming as a business, that is very critical. So when you talk about finance, it's about money. How do you access this money? And not only now to you, also to your customer. This is a smallholder. So you need to ensure that these smallholder farmers have access to whatever you are selling. Because even if you talk about quality seed and they have never seen this quality seed, I've heard of people talk about demonstration. It's also very expensive when you do this demonstration, but you have to bear that pain to let these farmers understand these are quality seed. So the one thing you need to understand is the business. Which business are you doing? And that's very critical, because even if you get money and you don't understand your business, this money will go to waste. Then you need to understand where you're going. That's very critical. You have to plan. Yeah, you want to move from here to here. Once you get this planning, you'll be able to know, once I get money, where I'm getting it. Then you once you get this money, be able to train the farmers, because you have to work together with the farmers. If you leave farmers behind, you will not go anywhere, because these are the key clients you are targeting. If they do not understand financials, if they don't have bank account, if they don't know, if I get harvesting, I have to save for my seed, I have to save for my input, then you are not going to assist ourselves. So one critical thing we need to do is financial literacy. You have to bring financial literacy to the smallholder farmer so that they can understand farming is a business. It's not that I'm waiting for the government to come and give me free seed. No, I'm waiting for the government to come and give me free fertilizer. So we need to take this farming as a business. We need to give a financial training and literacy to the smallholder farmers. And I think with this, we'll be able to assist our sector, and we'll be able to see sector growing big and big. And also what yesterday I listened, and there's something which is very critical in this sector, in terms of insurance. We need to bring insurance into play so that we can de-risk the issue of agriculture. Because today everyone is going to eat, and yet you're here at such portfolio is only 4% going to agriculture. And everyone today is knowing for 100% going to eat, either 2 meal or 3 meal. Why are we not funding agriculture? So we have to de-risk this agricultural sector and be able to bring these farmers to understand farming is a business. And the moment you take this farming as a business, I'm telling you, you're going to have a boom in this sector. And I think with that few remark, also you'll be able to understand the strategy. Because in business, there are only two strategies. You maximize your revenue and you minimize your cost. So these are the key strategies we need also to employ and be able to work in this sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those points, Mr. Kaputa. And just to take a cue from where you concluded it on how there's a need to de-risk the sector, and here we are referring to the seed industry. I believe it's then proper that we tie this right away to NISAL. I believe we have the CEO of NISAL with us, or his representative. I believe I saw someone I saw a NISAL user account up earlier.
Yes, Mr. Ojewale, I'm here. My name is Ibrahim Abdullahi. I've been mandated by the MD/CEO of NISAL to represent him at this meeting, actually. And we are quite happy to be here because we've been working closely with the National Agricultural Seed Council and the Seed Entrepreneurs Association of Nigeria to develop a kind of seed financing framework, that speaks to the seed sector financing. And I'm happy from the topic is assessing finance to support and complement government finance. As we are all aware, in Africa, Nigeria inclusive, we've not been able to meet the Maputo Declaration of 10% budget allocation to agriculture. So, the first speaker made mention that the funding to agri sector is only 4% of the total bank lending. It is true. So, but at NISAL, actually what we are doing is to create a synergy between agricultural value chain and financing value chain. They have to come together. Why is it that a lot of banks, they are shying away from funding agriculture, despite the fact that we have huge potential in agri sector? For example, the cost of input alone for 40 million hectares being planted in Nigeria is about 7 trillion naira. That's the value for seed, fertilizer, crop protection, and other inputs, which is a huge potential, and no bank will not want to share in the 7 trillion naira worth of agribusiness within the primary production alone. So we have realized that the main issue is lack of structure. So we at NISAL, we have developed what we call mapping to market and agro-geo cooperative to see how we can create a structure that will attract funding into the agri value chain, seed inclusive. I would like to quickly share my screen to specifically look at the seed sector financing that we are trying to present. So I'm having problems sharing the screen, please. I don't know if the organizers can help out. I'm trying to share the screen, but it's actually not showing.
I believe Yewande will look into that. She's here with us. She can help you to get that up online on the screen.
Okay, so while she does that, let me just quickly talk about what do we mean by the M2M. So we realize that a lot of farmers, a lot of seed companies, they go out there, plan their production and produce without really deep knowledge of the market. What does the market want in terms of the crop type, the quantity, the quality, and everything. So they just produce based on their own planning. So the best thing that will speak to finance is you have to first understand the market. There has to be an indent. That is what will make the seed companies to produce. There has to be some level of agreements for the delivery of seeds to the offtake market, and then the regulatory bodies, they are there to regulate whatever transaction is going to happen. So what we did was we analyzed the seed sector financing framework. We realized, one, the banks, in Nigeria and in Africa, they don't understand the seed value chain, number one. Number two, they don't understand the cash flow, the seed cash flow. So if a bank is contemplating to fund any seed company and is now thinking of a loan tenure of, let's just say 12 months, then he's getting it wrong, because to produce seed, you need nothing less than 18 months to complete a cycle. So you have to take that into consideration in coming up with the financing framework. That is number one. Number two, you must have different approach to funding different segments of the seed aspect. So what we did in collaboration with the National Agri-Seed Council and the SEDAN, we have now broken the seed value chain into 4 main categories. Number one, we have research and development. You have to face research and development with different kinds of funding. You cannot get commercial banks to fund research and development, even if you have guarantees. That is a fact. And then the private sector that we have in Nigeria, they don't have what it takes to invest in research and development. So the options that we have there, we have government really need to invest in research and development, and then private investment from some of the multinational corporations that they have really invested so much in the development of the seed varieties and hybrids. Then the second category is the EGS, which is early generation seed. That one too, you must have different approach to funding the EGS. So under the EGS, we propose a kind of technical assistance, funding, and then intervention programs from government and private investment also under the EGS. So where do we have commercial banks that needs to come in there and other intervention programs is in the production of certified seed. Under the production of certified seed, we have to take into consideration the issue of the seed cycle, which we just mentioned. You need not less than 18 months to complete a cycle. That is from production to selling the seed and getting the money back and repay. You need 18 months. So we have taken that into consideration. So we now at NICEL say that there is need to break that.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Ibrahim. I believe you can share your screen. Just from your end, just tap on the share screen option you have, and that should share the content you want to project.
I actually tried that, but it's showing, it's not really coming up from my side. Okay, probably let me try again. It's actually not sharing the screen. So maybe
okay, that's fine, sir. That's fine, sir.
Okay, I don't know. Can you see
Ibrahim? Can you send the presentation
you are
to me?
Screen now.
Let me see.
It's up now.
Okay, it's showing now.
My screen is okay. Good. So okay, good. So on this particular slides, I hope you can see the slide now.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm actually on this particular slide talking about how we have broken down the different components of the seed and proposed different financing framework. So I'm on the certified seed where we say this one too also needs to be broken down so that you can, instead of the whole 18 months, you cannot get commercial banks. So we have now proposed that there should be an outgrower financing scheme, which speaks to just a season. Just like a loan to farmers, which speaks to season, this loan will go to the outgrowers under the coordination of different seed companies. So here we expect seed companies to register their outgrowers. So under this arrangement, NICEL can facilitate access to AXMIS and private investment also under the outgrower scheme. Also, NICEL can facilitate a kind of access to anchor borrower program for the outgrowers because this speaks to the anchor borrower framework of lending for just a season. And then we have the other aspect, which is the seed buyback and processing component. This is what is going to speak to commercial funding because it's not going to be any more 18 months now. This speaks only for the seed company to access money to buy back the seed from the outgrowers. So as the seed company is paying for the seed, the outgrowers will pay back their loan. So that will settle that one. Then what the seed companies need to access loan, here we are proposing commercial banks, is that they need the national guarantee CRG, which we have done with seed and fertilizer companies in the past. during the GES program, NICEL guarantees all the funding, despite the challenges we faced in terms of actually getting repayment from the government side. Then the last aspect is the marketing. We have realized that when you produce the seed through the outgrower, when the seed company buy back the seed and process the seed, there is another component which is marketing the seed. It has to do with the distribution, transportation, and whatever. And this is the area that is giving most of the seed companies headache. After having invested a lot of money, you have gone through it. By the time you reach the time to actually take the seed to the farmers, you don't have money to do that. So under this one, NICEL is proposing commercial banks to actually fund it. This is through just overdraft, because all that you need here is overdraft. So you see what we have done as NICEL now, we have broken that 18 months, which no commercial bank will fund, and no investor will just invest and wait like that, into three different segments. Number one, outgrower scheme, which speaks to just 6 to 8 months, and then seed buyback and processing, which speaks to another, maybe another 6 to 8 months, and then the marketing of the seeds, which speaks to about 2 to 4 months. So when you add it, you have your 18 months. And with this kind of segmentation, we will be able to find people that will fund seed production. So this is the area, this is how we have broken down and segmented the seed financing framework, which we have been working together with the council and the CDN in the past. But what we have done now is to make it in such a way that commercial banks will easily pick it and fund it, and NICEL will issue guarantee, and seed companies, they will easily be able to repay back and take another cycle without any hitch. Then the last aspect that
Mr. Abdullahi for your presentation, but because of time,
yes,
we have to move on. You've shared a lot of insights with us, and we've actually let you speak for this length of time because we know a lot of people are interested in what you are doing at NICEL. It's very important, and it's one of the very key components of this panel. We will definitely come back to you with questions. We are sure people will have questions to ask, and we are going to come back to you with those questions. So thank you very much. And I believe if you are able to share your presentation as well with us, we may be able to get it across to some of the participants who would like to go through your document in detail to better understand what you are doing at NICEL. Okay. Thank you very much for your insights, and we are still going to get back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ojale. Thank you all. Thank you.
And so now we go to the next panelist. Now we've spoken about finance from different perspectives, and now we are going to Ank van den Hek at Platinum in the Netherlands. And we want you to share another perspective with us. Agricultural productivity is dependent on continuous research. You need to keep developing the varieties and to make sure that the seeds remain viable. And this requires funding, it requires finance. But what we want to ask you to share with us, how can players in the industry leverage on partnerships in order to get productive research and development done? So not all just about going to the bank for a loan or looking for a nicer guarantee, but we believe there are other ways of securing partnerships. So what insights can you share with us in terms of securing these partnerships that can help in continuous development in seed production? Over to you, please.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me for this meeting and this panel discussion. Yeah, I'm Anke van den Hurk, working for Plantem, the Dutch Seed Association. We have over 300 members that deal with vegetable seeds, field crop seeds, seed potatoes, seeds and young plants of ornamentals and young plants of vegetables and soft fruits. And where I want to focus on really in this short presentation is indeed the importance of collaboration. And the importance of collaboration is already recognized since a long time in our sector in the Netherlands. And as was the saying of one of our honorary lifetime members that unfortunately passed away last week, we are not only competitors, we are also colleagues. And he therefore invented the new word con-colleagues. So combining the competitor aspect with the collegial aspect. So indeed, I want to focus on collaboration. And since years, we are talking in the Netherlands already on the so-called golden triangle. And that is the good collaboration between the private sector, the government, and the research community. And this has led, for example, to very useful collaboration in non-competitive research related to plant breeding. And research is done then. Research proposals are developed and they are done on relevant topics for the private sector as well as for the government, and obviously also for the research institutes that have knowledge on that. And the financing of that research is done partly by the public sector and partly by the private sector. And the contribution of the private sector depends on the direct relevance of the research for the private sector and varies between 10 to 50% of the costs. And it's a maximum of 50% of this cost that the private sector contributes, maybe in kind. And if you want to see like figures on research that are spent, are not enormous amounts of money. I think it's yearly around 2 million euro that is supported by the Dutch government, and so that will be complemented with money from the private sector, private seed sector. It's important, though, if you are thinking in these structures, that you develop those structures as well. And I think we heard in the former speech also creative ways of how doing financing and how to work together. But where we 20 to 30 years ago still were working on plant breeding itself together with the seed companies, that is not happening anymore these days. Breeding and even pre-breeding is now done by the company itself. They pay it themselves, they get their financing for that via their structures. But we still work on non-competitive aspects. So that is research that is more complex, complex disease resistances, abiotic stress, and so on. And there we still collaborate. But collaboration is not only important in the research, it's also important in seed policies and implementations and so on. And that's, and maybe before going into that collaboration, I would say we were talking on the golden triangle. Lately, we are talking on the Dutch diamond, because we don't think we should only look to those three parties, but we should also involve the NGO community to take care that research we are doing together is also socially and economically viable. So when we do all this collaboration, I can tell you that we look for the commonalities, where you look really for the way forward to do things. Because of course, those four elements, those four partners of the diamond, they have different points of view. But if you really look to the commonalities, you can come somewhere. And as indicated, I would like to say something on seed association, as I'm working for one of the seed associations in the world that has a strong position. And we feel that we have a strong position because we are looking again for the commonalities. We should be as independent as possible. We should not focus on one company or the other. If you are a big or a small member in Plantum, you all have the same voice. And we want to be inclusive. So for the association, we have a couple of elements and that are important in our opinion. So first of all, we are a platform function. So really meet each other, work together in working groups on technical aspects, political aspects. Then we have an advocacy function, and that is a very important one. We should prepare positions for the seed sector as a whole. We should be as a whole, as a group, we should act as a group, as one voice to the government, as one voice to the research communities, as one voice to whoever. And yeah, we are partners and share our positions, and that has been working really well. We have really good close collaboration with the government. They see us as an important voice, especially the Plantum organization, so they don't need to talk with every and each individual company. No, one voice. And what is also important for a seed association is to really be a knowledge center. You need to know what is happening for your members around the world today and what is coming up in the future. So like in the Netherlands, we are now focusing on, for example, a new topic, corporate social responsibility. It's coming up. There are laws coming up, so we should prepare our members.
Thank you very much for the insight with us. We have just 15 minutes left on this panel. And so we are still going to endeavor to come back to you to still share more insights with us. Now, we would like to go back to Mr. Ibrahim Abdullahi to conclude the presentation from NISAL. And after Mr. Abdullahi, then we take the final panelist and we try to go back for the next round of questions. We will be taking the Q&A. So, Mr. Abdullahi, please, you can conclude the presentation from NISAL.
Let me quickly share my screen again, please.
Okay, great.
Thank you. So thank you very much. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, we can. We can see your screen.
Okay, thanks. So let me quickly run, because it's important we speak within the context of the whole value chain for the agri sector, so that we see where we can position and situate seed, both production and financing. So let me just speak shortly about, sorry, I'm having challenge moving the, okay, good. About the NISAL role. NISAL is actually to de-risk agriculture and facilitate agribusiness, which means that we facilitate the whole gamut of agribusinesses within the value chain of the different crops that we have, that we are producing in the country. So the mandate is actually to redefine major price and share agribusiness related credit risks, fix broken agricultural value chain, do long-term capacity, institutionalized incentive for agricultural lending, stimulating the flow of finance and investment into the agricultural value chain. Today we are focusing on the seed. So how do we do it? We have our pillars, what we call pillars. We have number one, risk sharing, which is the credit guarantee that I talked about. This particular component is available for the seed companies that wants to actually fund their seed buyback and processing, like I described earlier. They are entitled to get CRG from NISAL if they approach any bank. Then we have an insurance component. We develop innovative insurance for the agri sector, which is different from indemnity-based insurance. We develop innovative insurance such as index-based insurance and the likes. We have the technical assistant component, which is TA. This is what we use to train the different stakeholders within the value chain and fix broken value chain with our technical assistant. We have rating. This is how we rate all the participants within the agri value chain and now incentivize them with this particular pillar to incentivize performance. So this speaks to the risk sharing, insurance, technical assistance, and rest of Africa engagement. So far, our performance as NISAL, we have so far facilitated over about 145 billion naira investment into agriculture and direct employment of over 500,000. So what's the NISAL approach to the value chain? Let me categorically make one statement here, that why commercial banks, they are not speaking to agri, or they don't lend to agri, they don't lend to seed. is because there is just no structure and the right segmentation. And that is what NISAL has done to the Nigerian agri sector. We picked all the value chain in Nigeria, and we've now broken it into 4 main categories. We have what you call the pre-upstream, we have the upstream, we have the midstream, and the downstream. The pre-upstream, this is where the seed belongs to. This includes research and innovation, seed, fertilizer, crop protection products, insurance services, and the rest of them. The upstream, this is where the production takes place. This is where you have the farmers. So in this case, this is where you have the seed outgrowers. This is where you have the smallholder farmers. The midstream has to speak to the logistics, the processing. The youth session, they talked about logistics and transportation and the rest of things like that. This is where we address it. And then we have the downstream. So we have broken down this thing into different segments, and we have developed appropriate financing framework that speaks to what banks understand. Then, okay, this is just to give you, to explain further on the pre-upstream research for innovation inputs, including seed mechanization. I've already explained this. Let me not waste much of our time now. Now, the national approach to the seed, this is it, which I've explained earlier. We have broken it down into these 4 different categories. Research and development. We said this one, let us rule it out. No commercial bank will lend money for research and development, as we all know. No commercial bank. So let us take note. So it's for the Ministry of Agriculture, the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, National Agri-Seed Council, for them really, and the NISAL to push forward more for government intervention in the research and development, because no commercial bank will speak to research and development. This is the fact. Then the EGS, which is the early generation seed, this one we said, okay, NISAL could come in with some technical assistance to help some of the research institute to see how some identified hybrids develop, to see how it can get to commercial level, kind of. And then intervention programs could be used to fund the EGS, early generation. And we can also make it as a business. We are happy that the National Agri-Seed Council, they have commenced registration of companies that will focus only on the production of foundation seed. That is the private investment that we are talking here. So those companies, they can have access to funding, and NISAL can guarantee that one under the AGS. Under the certified seed, we have the outgrower scheme, like I said. We can facilitate AXMIS for the outgrowers, but this one under the complete control of the seed company that presented its outgrowers, because we know seed is a regulated material. No seed company will just give his outgrowers his material and he just leave them like that to access funding. So it's under the coordination of the seed companies. Then we have the buyback. This loan will go directly to the seed companies, and NISAL can guarantee this. This one we are proposing commercial banks. Then we have the marketing side, where you will deal with the issue of transporting it, dealing with the distributors, network, and things like that. So under here, we also included vendor sales. This is to improve sales to the seed companies. We have already organized farmers into cooperatives, millions of them into cooperatives. So even if there is no funding from any bank, any company, seed company that is ready to register with NISAL could be giving such kind of organized farmers to give them seed. When they finish production, they will pay him back in kind and kind of thing like that. That's what we call by the vendor financing of farmers, and that will facilitate seed companies to make a lot of sales. So we have developed other JO cooperatives. I would like to quickly talk about the JO cooperatives so that seed companies will understand it better and take advantage of the National Agro JO Cooperative. What we have done is we realized that no bank, no investor will invest or fund smallholder farmers in Nigeria because they are scattered, they are unorganized and everything. So we are putting them into what we call the National Agro JO Cooperative. So the National Agro JO Cooperative is bringing at least 250 hectares in one place, farmers that are located in one place, contiguous farmland joining together. We put them into cooperative, and now we determine what they will produce based on the market, and we now introduce what we call the governance structure to them. So over time, different cooperatives created will become a cluster. With that kind of cluster, a seed company will say, I'm interested in delivering seed to this whole cluster. And a cluster could go up to 20,000 hectares. Imagine having access to a market of 20,000 hectares to deliver seeds, to deliver fertilizer, to deliver agrochemicals. So we have been registering these cooperatives all over Nigeria, and we have established what you call an AGC bank. So we already have them. Any interested party could come and let's talk how we can get these farmers further organized and how seed, fertilizer, and other companies will be able to have access to them under the concept that we call our M2M concept. Then we also have the kind of the M2M. Let me quickly speak to the M2M. The M2M is mapping to market. That is, we first get indent, then we map it to the producers. We now bring the midstream, the processors, and everything, the payment will be handled by one bank. The loan will be handled by one bank, and the payment is just debit and credit within the banking industry. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim Abdullahi, for that detailed presentation. And we had to go back to Mr. Abdullahi to finish up that presentation, as we understood that many people needed to get all this information from him. And we're hoping that people will not just end in here as a presentation. And so now we have to go straight to the Q&A. We are unable to go for the second round of questions, as this presentation, which has been very informative, has taken a substantial portion of our time. So I can see a question here from Ekum Ojogu. He's asking, what does it take to register with NISAL in order to get access to the vendor sales fund and the geo cooperative? I believe this question is directed at Mr. Abdullahi. So, Mr. Abdullahi, you have to come back to provide an answer to this. And if we can have other questions, we would also put them to the panelists who are in the best position to answer them, so that we can conclude this panel on time. Mr. Abdullahi, are you with us, please?
I'm with you. Actually,
okay. Did you get the question, sir?
Yeah, I got the question. I got the question, really. So actually, we have developed a guideline which we are going to share with people for the registration of agro-geo cooperative in Nigeria. And any interested person can express interest, and we'll provide him with all the templates to register his farmers for the agro-geo cooperative. And for the vendor financing, any interested seed company, fertilizer company, and all the participants within the value chain, they can express interest that they are interested in selling their seed under the vendor framework arrangement. The vendor financing framework is being finalized, and very soon we will commence linking farmers to have access to the vendors under the NISAL control and guarantee.
Okay, thank you very much for that insight you've shared. I can't see any more questions here, so I believe it would be nice to conclude with the other panelists whose presentation we were meant to take before coming back to you, Mr. Abdullahi, and that's Mr. Folari. So, Mr. Folari, if you're still here with us, please just to take just a question, like the other panel members have done earlier, and it's on the bottlenecks that often limit finance in the seed sector. So we'd just like you to share an insight in just 2 minutes. It's 1:15. Our panel is meant to end at 1:15. So if you could just take our audience just for an additional 2 minutes. We want you to speak on how these bottlenecks can be removed to enhance private sector activities in the industry as regards certification and registration. From your experience, how can these bottlenecks that limit more participation be removed? Mr. Folarin, over to you, please, in just 2 minutes so we can conclude the panel with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think the answer is in the presentation made by my colleague from NISA, Ibrahim. He has actually pointed out the bottleneck, the fact that a key important step in the entire value chain is not attractive to any commercial bank or anybody to fund, and that is the the beginning of the system. If we don't get it right at that level, then we won't get it right, in the entire chain. And that is why the council has been discussing with stakeholders to see how we can harmonize all the positions. Anke had brought in a very beautiful position of public-private partnership from the Dutch side. And for us here, we are saying, yes, just as entrenched in the ECOWAS harmonized rules and regulation, there should be a seed sector development fund or a seed fund for Nigeria, whereby there can be contributions from government and the private sector to collectively fund or finance this fund, just like we have the Education Trust Fund and the Ecological Fund, a lot of other funds that will bring money aside from the government statutory budgetary provisions to research, to regulatory agencies, even to private sector, to act as a sustainable solution to the financing of the seed sector development in Nigeria. If this can be done, then we can be assured that we have a solution to the challenges, and all the relevant people can draw from this pool of fund domiciled maybe with the Ministry of Finance or the central bank, for the sector development. And from there, you can fund research, you can fund regulatory activities and the like of others. And even the private sector also can draw funds from it. So this is just what we put on the table, and the council, under the leadership of the DG with support of the members of the board, even the Honorable Minister and the National Assembly, have been discussing on this issue. And I think when we give it more hype, we would get it done, and it will be a solution to the seed system in the country. Thank you very much, Caleb, for this opportunity. And thank you to all the panelists.
Thank you very much, Mr. Folarin Okilola, for the insights you shared. And we definitely will be hear more when these developments are getting to materialize. I'd like to appreciate the panelists who have shared their insights. We do not take it for granted. And I'm sure we would love to say more, but because of time, we have to end the session here at this time. But the conversation surely does not end here. We hope that our conversations will lead to more action going forward. And so once again, thank you all for your time. Thank you for the insights. And so back to you, Yewande.
Thank you, Caleb. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the panelists, the great insight, and for the beautiful presentation. Unfortunately, it's sad, but we have to end and we have to wrap up the session. Thank you for joining. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your time, for participating and engaging. A big thank you to all our speakers and panelists, and most importantly, our sponsors, the Embassy of the Netherlands and Premier Seeds, for making this possible. Thanks once again for engaging. We look forward to more collaboration, and please continue to stay safe. We hope we can have the Seedconnect 2021 event live in person. Finger crossed. Hopefully we're better times and we don't have to do this online. Thank you again. Thank you to the NACS team for putting this together. And just thank you. Once again, thank you, and do have a lovely weekend. Thanks for everybody.
Yewande, can we have a screenshot?
Yes, for all the panelists and please, can you turn on your video so we can do a screenshot and we can have this in our archives? Please turn on your videos. That would be amazing. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm
Okay, Samson, no worries.
All the videos. And can the host please unmute everybody so everybody can say hello?
Yewande, there's a hand up. I don't know if you want Dr. Arokoyo. His hand is up, of Agra. If we can just listen to him, if he's there 1 minute and close.
Jane, Dr. Arokoyo, please.
But I think I just saw that maybe he left. The hand is no longer up. It's been a pleasure, everyone.
Jane, please unmute everybody.
Mr. Arukoya, his hand is up again.
I think Mr. Arukoya wants to say something from Agra.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Mr. Majakumjuni. Thank you to everybody. Dr. Maya, Ms. Ang, thank you. Mr. George, Professor Gumbile, thank you. And our wonderful NAS team, thank you.
And to
our
the
DG.
Wandeville team, thank you.
Thank you to
Next
everybody.
year, we hope
Please, let's
we'll
hear from
see
Dr.
everybody
Arukoye.
live.
Let's hear from Dr. Arukoye. Jane and Victoria, let's see you live.
Thank you, Yewande. Thank you for a very good job.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. Can you unmute Dr. Arukoye so you can speak, Jane?
Yeah.
Dr. Arukoye, you can speak now. Dr. Arukoye, can you hear us?
Maybe he's not there.
Hello.
Aha.
Great. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry. Apologies, please. I was going to ask the representative of NARSAL. He spoke profusely about the weakness of commercial banks, their inability to fund agriculture because they do not know the dynamics of agricultural production. Now I realize one of the 5 pillars of NARSAL is technical assistance, one of which is to the agric desks of commercial banks. I think that is an opportunity for you, if truly you want to be involved in the risk sharing of agric lending, by trying to reduce the burden on yourself alone, being the only one who understands this. Once you share it with other commercial banks, they will be able to take that burden off you and be able to lend more to agriculture. So I don't know why you are not doing that. Can you please speak to that in just a minute if you can?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. From my presentation, you would have seen that where I showed the result, I talked about training the agric desk officers of commercial banks nationwide. We have been doing that and we are doing that. The facts remain is we also have to put the structure in place that will actually attract them, which we are doing, like the primary production structure, the AgroJo cooperative that we are putting in place. They want to see clarity. This one has nothing to do much with their capacity. I just gave example of the seed when initially most of the commercial banks couldn't understand that for you to fund seed, you can't just tell seed company, you are giving them a loan and within 6 months they should repay. They require at least an 18-month stretch. So what NICEL did now is for us to come in and say, since no commercial bank is ready to give 18 months and seed companies, they actually require funding for up to 18 months. We now decided to segment it and break it down from the meeting and that we have been having with the council and the CDAN. We realized that we can segment it, which we have successfully done now. So this is now, we'll now go out and deploy this segmentation and bring the different kind of funding so that when you put the whole gamut of the different segments together, you have the 18 months adequately funded. And thank you very much for that. We are working closely with all the agric desk officers in Nigeria. We have been training them. And actually the last 2 pillars, which is rating and incentive mechanism, we are using a highly recognized rating agency, Augustus, to rate all the commercial banks in Nigeria to see how they are doing in terms of funding agriculture in Nigeria so that we can incentivize them, to encourage them to do more to agriculture so that the issue of total lending will go on. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And
thank you.
Say bye from
Unfortunately,
here.
we have to wrap up. So thank you. Thank you again for an engaging webinar. Thank you. We look forward to more webinars in the future, and let's try to stay safe. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.